Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the virtual Kansas Speedway in beautiful Kansas City, Kansas, for tonight's coverage of the Kansas 200, the ninth race of the Northwest Cup Series campaign. I'm Justin Prince, alongside you in the booth tonight here on LSR TV. Your home for sim racing is Greg Rentz. Charles Woodens in the director's seat for tonight's action. Greg, tonight sees us back on the mile-and-a-half circuits after a trip to some short track and road course racing over the past couple weeks. Should be an exciting one tonight from Kansas.
Yeah, the drivers are very, very excited to be back going pure left, and they were excited to be coming here to Kansas here tonight. A little bit of a change-up after what we've seen from the series the last couple of weeks. Like you mentioned, we were at the Charlotte Roval last week where we were turning left and right, and we had all kinds of adventures. And here we are back at the bread and butter of NASCAR, the mile-and-a-half oval. Here we are in Kansas City, Kansas, 134 laps, 200 miles. Going to be a great show here tonight, Justin.
Absolutely. Let's first talk about that race at the Roval. It was an eventful one where Jeff Stabnow came away with the victory in that one after starting at the front of the field, but it was a race full of intrigue, strategy, and major mistakes. Sean Brightsman at one point led a few laps on strategy, was trying to stretch it on fuel, we were hearing, Greg. Then disaster struck two straight times through the final corners.
Yeah, and unfortunately for Brightsman, that ended any chance he had of winning, but he was still able to stretch it all the way and finish in the fourth position with the modified LSR TV Toyota, as we were calling it, up in the press box up there at the Charlotte Roval. But it was a good effort by Sean Brightsman to put it all together, but unfortunately it just bit him there at the end. And how about the run that Jeff Stabnow had there, Justin? It was nearly flawless from the 24 Chevy there on Monday night last week.
Absolutely. Became the third multi-race winner of the campaign so far. 4 total drivers have gone in victories. Let's talk about the point standings because there is a lot to discuss and unravel. Dan West Jr. comes into the night first with a 33-point lead over Jeff Stabnow. Sean Brightsman, Chris White, Stephen Paulson rounds out the top 5. Then it gets interesting after Seth Frazier in P number 6 because this was official as of this weekend. 4 drivers were suspended indefinitely from Northwest Cup Series competition, with a few serving iRacing suspensions. Travis Barnes, Casey Tillman, Dylan Huffines, Justin McClure, done for the 2020 season, Greg.
Yeah, it was an unfortunate situation. What happened was it was determined after an internal investigation that Travis Barnes, while serving a 3-race suspension, was actually competing under the accounts of the other drivers listed. So even though it said those drivers' names, it was actually Travis Barnes competing under their account. He was suspended. That is illegal in not only the series, that also goes against the iRacing Code of Conduct. And iRacing found out. They hit him with a 1-month suspension, and they are done for the season in the Northwest Racing Series. An unfortunate situation, absolutely, Justin. And I would like to say that I hope that 4 young men learned a valuable lesson here with this whole thing. And we hope that once this is all said and done with moving into next year, that they're able to come back. But definitely the right decision was made there.
Absolutely agree with you. Have to take that very seriously. You never want to have that type of scenario. Has happened in a couple different cases in the past. Correct call was made on that account. But getting to tonight's race, as the drivers discuss things in their meeting this evening, let's talk about the track itself, Kansas Speedway. It's an interesting 1.5-mile circuit in that a lot of strategy comes into play here. And mind you, it's a track where the top line, Greg, is very beneficial.
Yeah, we see it quite a few times at the 1.5 mile. We were wondering if we were going to see it earlier this season at the Homestead Miami Speedway. It never really came in as it does in real life, but I would expect it a little bit more here tonight in Kansas because this is a track that really seems to benefit the top line, riding right on the wall through the corners, up in the very, very tip top in the marble. So we'll see if anybody here is willing to try it out here in Kansas tonight. Fast time in practice was, no surprise, Dan West Jr., a 30.131. Only one other driver was able to crack the 30.1 second bracket, that being Dan Lowther. And Justin was watching Lowther in practice. He was running up near the top for a majority of the laps. So that top line seems to be quick, as Lowther was up in the top line, second quick, just 6/100ths off the top spot in practice.
Absolutely. Dan West Jr. on top of that practice pylon, by the way, with the 30.131. Lowther, then Carl Burke, Scott Mann, Devin West rounded out the top five. Chris White, Jeff Stabnow, Bill Ross Jr., Dan Sturzy, Steve Jennings rounded out the top spots in practice. But also, one of the main things to think about is it's 134 laps. That is around NIS distance for Kansas Speedway. Strategy could be fairly open tonight. A two-stopper on the fuel, Greg.
Yeah, you mentioned when we were talking about it before the race, the fuel run, you can expect about 60 laps on a tank of fuel, but that would break in about 14 laps short if you pitted on lap 60 and lap 120. So two-stop strategy here tonight. And Justin, I'm not so sure that we will see drivers going an entire fuel run. I'm thinking we're going to see some guys try to short pit a little bit to try to set themselves up near the end.
And we talk about tire wear as well at this track. It's a very hot track temperature at the moment, just before the start of qualifying here. 117 degrees Fahrenheit, 73 degrees is the air temp. Winds are gusting 8 miles an hour all the way facing the banking in turns 3 and 4. That is towards the south, to be specific, around the racetrack tonight. For comparison's sake, data given from some of the drivers tonight, 90% tire wear in just 10 laps of practice time for drivers such as Seth Frazier, Greg.
Yeah, we'll see how it all unfolds through the course of this race. You mentioned Seth Frazier, of course, 2 wins on the year for Seth Frazier, but he's hit a bit of a skid in the Northwest Racing Series as well. 2 wins early in the season, but has had a lot of bad luck lately, hoping to bounce back here tonight in Kansas. Was middle of the pylon in practice tonight, so hopefully he's able to transition that over for a good run and see if we can get the number 32 PPG Paints car back into contention here.
And the last time Seth Frazier finished in the top 10, by the way, was on March the 30th when it was at Homestead. 4 out of the last 5 races, he has finished 18th or worse after winning 2 of the first 3 races of the campaign. What have been some of the discussions like with some of the other drivers for you, Greg, though, in preparation for tonight's race here at Kansas?
Daryl Tidrick was talking a little bit before the race, and he said he was hoping to have a solid run, but he wasn't sure it was going to work out because he was a little bit slow in practice, 30.377, sitting around 20th position. But Tidrick said he felt pretty good about his car on the long run, Justin, so we'll see how it goes through the course of the day, and we'll see if Tidrick can get himself back into competition here, as he's had a few good runs going the last couple of times, just hasn't had the luck to finish the runoff. So keeping your eye on Tidrick for sure. Always got to keep an eye on Sean Breitzman, who once again, true to form, sitting around middle of the pack, sitting 11th on the pylon. We can expect him to qualify around there as well. But if anyone's going to try some risky pit strategy, you know it's going to be that bright purple 46 Camry.
Absolutely. Can hit back upon Dan West Jr. You mentioned the speed so far. Dan West Jr. has been on a tear lately, mind you, to grow that points lead with multiple consistent finishes. Your thoughts on the West since they have had a dominant stretch in the past 3-4 races?
That they have, and Dan West Jr., he put a stamp on that dominant competition Thursday night in the Truck Series at the Roval, leading all 55 laps after starting in the 6th position. Devin West didn't have as good of a run on Thursday, but I want to give a shout out to him. He fell back to 20th early on and then was able to climb back up into the top 5. Good run for Devin West, sitting top 5 in practice today as well. So once again, 2 very, very fast entries out of West Family Racing. Dan West top of the board, Devin West 5th, I'm sorry. Dan looking for, I believe, his 3rd win of the season in the Cup Series. Devin, 1 win in the trucks, but hasn't broken through for that first Cup win, but has done very, very well over the last few races, including 2nd last week at the Roval. So it's coming for Devin West. They would have to say the number 16 car will be in victory lane sooner than later.
To put this into perspective, Just one time this season has Dan West Jr. finished lower than sixth. That was at Bristol. While Devin West, his son, is on a two-race top five streak, entering tonight's race here at Kansas. Dan Stussy with a good practice run, as we talked about. He's the car that you're currently looking at in the middle of your screen at the moment, by the way. Inside the top 10 of the pylon, your thoughts on Stussy, who is looking for just his second top 10 of the season tonight?
Justin, Stuzzi's another driver who's just had some horrible luck the last few weeks, as it seems like he just is in the wrong place at the wrong time and gets caught up in incidents that are none of his doing. So it's good to see Stuzzi up in the top 10 in the number 78 as he's preparing for qualifying. It looks like the driver's union is just about wrapped up, and we will have qualifying for you momentarily as soon as the final words are in. Stuzzi, of course, already locked in, ready to go out and qualify in his Chevy Camaro. But it's a good run for Stuzzi to be sitting in the top 10 in final practice here, getting set to qualify here shortly, staged and ready to go. We'll see if he's able to convert that into a good qualifying run, Justin.
Off and away is qualifying. Drivers' meeting has indeed wrapped up. First driver off and away is Carl Burke in the 53 machine. Good practice attempts this week. And a bit of a retro scheme tonight. A bit of an older style Purelator machine, in fact, this evening, Greg. You can see how Burke is trying to build up the momentum at this moment as they make their way down the front straightaway once again. Qualifying is underway. Burke, the first driver to try and put in a time on the racetrack. He will be followed by Bruce Lee Weaver, Gary Nichols, and a couple other drivers as they record their first times. Now, keep in mind when it comes to this package at this specific type of track, fastest laps are usually the second way around by about a tenth or two. See how Burke is on the first lap. Coming across the stripe, 185 at the stripe in miles an hour, 30.522. As he tries to get himself to the bottom, a bit tight, though, on his second lap. As mentioned, our drivers such as Weaver making their way around the circuit for their first and second attempts right now. Many drivers seeing the track temp drop 3 degrees during the drivers' meeting. Across the stripe, Burke with a 32.81, 0.3 quicker. Weaver just a tenth quicker, qualifies tentatively in P3. Nichols moves up to second. O'Hare currently in fourth. Also bumps his way to the top of the pylon with a 32.05. So far, 11 drivers have put in official times across the racetrack. The slowest of them was one of the quickest drivers in practice, Dan Lowther, in 11th position of 37.81 and a non-void second lap. Puts him deep in the running order for tonight's action. Final on now with Paulison as he tries to move his way up the board on his second lap. Currently second highest driver in the standings who has not recorded a victory this season. See if he can try and score himself a pole. Cross the stripe of 33.37 gets him up to P4. John Annenbacher also shuffles in right behind him in P number 5 in his qualifying attempt. As our cars make their way around the racetrack, let's try and follow on and listen in a little bit here with Brett Johnson. He is currently on his second lap, a blistering first time around. Making his way off the final corner, Johnson. See if he can bump his time up. No, in fact, he's slower by a tenth of a second. Sean Breitzman now making his way onto the racetrack, recorded a 30.285 as his quickest time in practice. But as we've seen, long run pace, it's the bread and butter of this purple, black, and whitish LSR TV machine. For Breitzman, 2 victories and a pole on the campaign, 4 top 5s, 5 top 10s in 2020 in the Cup Series. Using all the banking he can to try and build up momentum for the first lap. Taking a bit of a super speedway approach. Some drivers have elected to go this route to build up momentum for the second lap, but it puts a lot of pressure to execute the set lap. Going across the line for the first time, he'll be this time. Compare that to Stabnow, one of the drivers he works with. Stabnow back and forth. Brightsman P8 on the board at the moment after his first lap. Compare that to Stabnow. He's just taking his first flyer of tonight's qualifying. The few minutes or so to work with for these machines. Keep an eye on how this shapes out here as up on the top line. Stabnow trying to build momentum. Brightsman just completed his second lap with a 32.98 to move himself up to P3. Let's take a listen in for the second lap. Meanwhile, for Stabnow, currently 19th on the board. Crack of a throttle this time for Stabnow. We'll see what time he gets. In the sixes the first time around. The second time around, a 32.78. Good enough for P2. Good pace from Stabnow. Second all-time in wins in the history of the Northwest Racing Series. O'Hare currently on the tentative pole, though, as Dan West Jr. still has yet to record his first time. He's making his way around the track for the first time. For West Jr., 2 poles on the season. No driver has won more than 2 this campaign. Question's going to be, will he be able to bump off O'Hare off the top of the pylon? Track has increased in temperatures for the past 2 degrees. First way around is a 34.31. Will he be able to get enough speed is the question on the second way around, all the way on the bottom side, having to crack the throttle. One of the final cars making the way around the racetrack. Will West Jr. be able to come away with a third pole? Will O'Hare win his first? West Jr. across the stripe. 30.215. Just 1/100th off the top of the pylon. A huge flyer of a lap for him. Last drivers around the circuit, BJ Tidrick, who's currently making some practice runs, and Scott Mann had to put on the tow truck as he started his second lap. So at the moment, pending any other drivers taking the track, whether it's Hutchinson, Jennings, Frank Harris, Ray Fournier, or Eric Cheney, it is looking like O'Hare may have pole number 1 on the season. Drivers will have the chance in the next few moments to have that opportunity. We'll see how things shake out for tonight's action here on LSR TV. And as the track slows on down and everyone tries to take a deep breath, keep in mind that tonight going to be interesting to see who can come away with this checkered flag this evening. So happy to have you along with us for tonight's coverage here on LSR TV from the Kansas Speedway as qualifying reaches its final moments. You can see how close on the left side of your screen that pylon is for tonight's action. Top 25 separated by a total of 4 seconds if you include Tidrick, but including the drivers who put in fast flyers, only half a second separating P24 to the top spot in tonight's qualifying session here from Kansas. Splits, to be exact, can now be seen in the gray on the left side of your screen, to be precise. But qualifying coming to a close. We're just about to find out how exactly they'll shape out for tonight's Kansas 200 134 laps, 200 miles. Day, May the 15th, in sim time, 2:20 for the drop of the green flag tonight. Here's how they'll stack up for tonight's race here on your home for sim racing. On the pole tonight, it's Stephen O'Hare with a 30.205. Dan West Jr. qualified in second, just 1/100th off the top time. Jeff Stabnow, Carl Burke will start in row 2, with row 3 featuring Seth Frazier and Sean Breitzman. Brett Johnson and Gary Nichols round out row number 4, rounding up the top 10, Paulson and Ottenbacher. Corey Walters starts in 11th this evening with Devin West in 12th spot with a 30.424. Chris White, Scott Mann in 13th and 14th. Daryl Tidrick deep in the field in 15th with Bruce Lee Weaver. Dan Stussy in 17th. Bill Ross Jr. in 18th. Adam Chisholm, his first start of the season in 19th, the newcomer, 2/10 off his practice time. Roy Grande rounds out the top 20 in the Taco Bell machine. Brian Barnes starts 21st. Ricky Moser in 22nd. Lowther deep in the field after his struggles in qualifying in 23rd. Dana Rogers in 24th. And BJ Tidrick with a fast time of 34.975 rounds out the qualifiers. Everybody else took a provisional this evening. That includes Ray Fournier, Scott Hutchinson, Frank Harris, Steve Jennings, Eric Cheney amongst those drivers for tonight's action from the Kansas Speedway. Drivers getting all set to go to get running behind the iRacing official pace car. Greg, what are your keys to victory for tonight's action?
Oh, I made it back just in time. I see. Looks like we are set to go. For keys to the victory, you got to be able to find that perfect balance of tire management and track position. It's a long race, 134 laps, 200 miles, 2 stops here today. Got to figure out when you want to pit and manage those tires as opposed to keeping track position as well as you can. And you got to be able to respond if something throws you off your strategy. We saw it a lot at the Roval last week. That can carry over into a race like this as well. You got to be able to adjust on the fly if something throws you off your strategy.
Indeed, as the drivers roll their way along, should note Scott Mann did not make it to the grid. Ray Fournier, Steve Jennings, Eric Cheney also did not make it to the grid in time to roll behind the pace car. Tonight, we'll see progressive banking along the corners here at Kansas, 17 to 20 degrees. Front stretch features 9 to 11 degrees of progressive banking. Backstretch 5 degrees here at Kansas Speedway in the heart of a massive sports complex. You have the football stadiums nearby, as well as the baseball and soccer facilities. Oh, and by the way, don't forget about the casino overlooking the back straightaway here. Are you feeling lucky to try and find your way around the Golden Road to victory tonight? Or will we see someone stuck in the cornfield? We're about to find out here on LSR TV. O'Hare in control of the field, West Jr. on the outside line. Stabnow, Burke, Frazier, Breitzman, the top 6. We're all set to go racing from Kansas Speedway in Kansas City, Kansas. Buckle up, it's time to go racing. Marty the Flagman has the flag in full swing. Off and away we go. We're underway from Kansas.
Great initial start there by Dan West Jr. in the 55, not letting Stephen O'Hare get away from him. O'Hare comes fighting back on the inside, though, with help from Jeff Stabnow, last week's Roval winner. O'Hare able to clear West into turn number 1 as they pick up speed. They roar past the casino, down the backstretch. Early leader is O'Hare, but here comes West on the outside, and Stabnow peaking low.
O'Hare trying to block the momentum on the bottom side. West Jr. going to his happy place along the top line. Big run. West Jr. nearly gets loose. Hits the safer barrier. Loses tons of speed. Moves Stabnow up to second.
Stabnow right in the tire tracks of O'Hare as they came off of turn number 4. Dan West Jr. back in the 5th spot. All of a sudden, just like that, as both Seth Frazier and Carl Burke are able to get by. 2-car breakaway for just a split second up at the front with O'Hare and Stabnow. It's about 2 car lengths back before you find the side-by-side battle for third between Carl Burke outside, Seth Frazier inside.
And most of the field has migrated their way up to the top to middle lines at the moment, except for these machines who are side by side. Frazier looking to get clear on the apron. Yes, might be able to block off the run if he can slide up in time to hold off Carl Burke for third. That's what he'll try and do. And now Burke to the bottom side. And this is the chess match when it comes to Kansas with this package. You want to be on the preferred line. If you don't run that preferred line, you can lose speed or you can lose the top. West Jr. rips it away.
Yeah, I was just getting ready to say Dan West Jr. has no problem finding the preferred lane right up on the top as he got a great run there through 3 and 4. Boy, Carl Burke skidded up all the way from the apron there to throw a little bit of a block there on West Jr. to try to take that momentum away. And now they're shooting down the backstretch. West is going to clear Frazier for the 4th spot. Brett Johnson now entering the picture as well, just a little bit in the number 7 machine. West able to break away from Frazier there and get a run on the outside of Burke. No change up front. Top 2 staying the same. The battle for going on for 3rd now as West Jr. comes up on Burke.
One single followed out, and keep in mind there is the different philosophies, especially 1 and 2 when it comes to this track, because yes, the top line's the fastest line, but you're burning a lot of your tires off by carrying that speed. A lot of drivers in the NASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series, for example, they found the bottom line, painting the white line, especially in 3 and 4, is the best way to save tires, Greg.
We'll see if anyone tries it here in the early stages. So far, everyone has seemed to want to be up on the outside. O'Hare continuing to pull away. They fanned out a little bit behind them. Sean Breitzman and Brett Johnson, your first side-by-side battle through the tri-oval there, as Breitzman gave up the spot to Johnson, and Breitzman gets a run on the outside here off of turn number 2. And you see right here the momentum he's able to carry as opposed to Brett Johnson to try to get a run into turn 3. And Johnson going up to the high line as well through 3 and 4. Breitzman starting in the 6th position, back 1 spot to 7th. Carl Berg under pressure once again from Dan West Jr. in front of them as they fan out in the tri-oval, but it looks like through the rest of the track, everyone's trying to stay up top, Justin.
That's the tricky thing, though, when it comes to the apron. Yes, it's the shortest way around, but you do burn more tires again down there, and as the tires do wear out, Greg, it will get fairly loose once you get back from the transition from the apron back onto the banking in the front stretch of turn 1.
Yeah, so we'll see how these guys are able to play with that, Justin. And the longer the run goes, the looser the car will get. You mentioned the 60-lap fuel run if we stay green. However, if we see pit stops, I have no doubt is going to throw everybody's strategy out the window if we get a caution in the early stages. And some guys who may be trying to go the full length on a green flag run might have to readjust on the fly if they're banking on a long green flag run here.
Currently taking a look at the battle for P8, by the way. Devin West trying to move his way forward. One of the quicker cars on the track, Chris White, now forced up to the top side. Bit of a different look tonight for Chris White. Elected to bring out the Ford Mustang instead of the Chevrolet Camaro.
Interesting move by Chris White, a mid-season manufacturer switch. We don't see it very often, but we see it working right now as he started 13th. He just got around Devin West. Actually, he was fighting off Devin West as they were scored. He was scored in front of him last time by as West, another driver who's slowly making his way up through the field. But guys, hey, I'm impressed to see White taking the bold chance here by switching manufacturers mid-race or mid-season. You don't really see that too often.
You have to remember, too, Chris White has had a stellar season, the highest non-winning driver in the point standings entering today. 3 top 5s, 5 top 10s on the season, as currently White trying to get the bottom to work. Brett Johnson also doing the same just in front of him. And off and away goes Devin West. Move him up 1 more spot to P8.
Yeah, great job by Devin West there to make the move and really use Breitzman as a pick there to get some momentum going, and did a great job being able to be in the right spot to capitalize on Chris White there. So Devin West started 12th, now 8th, lining up with Breitzman. He's going to get a good run off of turn number 2 to try to get around Brett Johnson. His father, Dan West Jr., right in front of them, lost another spot to Seth Frazier, so move West back into the 5th position after running 3rd. Oh, Breitzman might have caught the wall off of turn number 4 as he slipped up and had to get out of the groove. And this is going to allow Devin West to be the big benefactor of that. Devin West has gained 3 spots in the last lap and a half.
Yes, indeed. Battle for the race lead on. Stabnow has reeled in O'Hare. Move Stabnow to the point. Stabnow, the quickest car on the track last time by, only 1 outside of Carl Burke in the 31-2s.
Here we go, just like last week. Jeff Stabnow back up front will come off and lead the lap. So second race in a row, Jeff Stabnow has led laps, looking for win number 3 on the season in the Cup Series, and would be a big one to show that he is one of the most versatile drivers in the league by going from the Roval victory lane, in which a race he dominated and led the most laps, to something here at 1.5 miles in Kansas, and having a great run so far. Started third, rode in second for the first 12 laps, and here he is, lap 13. He just took the lead. But O'Hare's not going away, Justin. Stephen O'Hare, the early race leader, winner at Texas in the Truck Series, hanging right here with Stabnow. Gets a good run through the tri-oval. We might see a move, and yes, we will. O'Hare taking a peak low, doesn't have enough strength to carry him through. Carl Burke also there in the picture. Strong run for the 53 thus far.
And it's very important, mind you, to get the clean air because of how less you have in terms of tightness in tire wear compared to having the dirty air. O'Hare now is losing tons of time now, despite being the front runner early on the clean air. Do you think he might have pushed a little bit too hard to try and grow the gap, and now it's going the other direction because of the pushing early?
Perhaps, or he might just be feeling the effect of that aero push. Or he may just be saving the tires and saying, you know what, you go ahead, you're putting the pressure on, I'm going to let you go out and run up front for a little while. O'Hare might be playing a little bit of the conservation game we talked about here.
Carl Burke, meanwhile, still within the slipstream in the draft right now for the second position. And one of the things when it comes to this track, as the runs progress here, Greg, you get these smaller packs. We're seeing it now in packs of 3 to 4 right now. Compare that to the start when it was packs of 10 to 12.
Yeah, we're seeing it through a couple of 3-car packs here, actually no more of a 5-car pack in the second spot, as Fraser's beginning to pull away from Devin West and kind of become his own guy right now as he's trying to catch on to the tail end of Burke. That's Fraser in the 4th spot in the PPG 32 car. He's trying to catch the draft of the 53, but he's just a little bit too far back to really make anything work with that right now, which allows the 16 of Devin West to get up and get the draft of Fraser. So now that we have a little bit of a draft going on with the 4th and 5th place cars, do you think they will be able to fall in line and try to reel in the top 3 quicker than we would have seen if Fraser trying to tag onto the back of the 53 by himself?
Well, with the line O'Hare is having, this is actually losing a bit of time each and every corner exit, trying to use the middle line, it appears here. Gap is now about 0.6 of a second, still within the slipstream, though. By the way, in that second grouping you see behind with Fraser, Devin West passed his dad, passed by everybody else in that second grouping. Now he's attacking for P number 4. He's one of the quickest cars on the racetrack in the 31.850 last time by in 16.
Kind of polar opposites I'm noticing with the West family racing entries. Devin West up 7 positions from his 12th starting spot. His father Dan down 7 spots, making 8 as Ottenbacher gets a run on the inside. Not 8 just yet, but at the turn 1, Ottenbacher will clear. Dan West Jr., something may have happened to the 55 because he was strong early on, but he is really struggling right now. Back in the 10th position right now. Gets a run off the turn number 2 to try to get the spot back from John Ottenbacher, but you mentioned Devin West having a good run so far. It's the polar opposite for his father, Dan.
Yeah, and remember, Dan West Jr. tried to hold on at the front of the field, nearly snapped the car loose, was able to save it. Drivers over the radio, in fact, complimented him on his ability to save the car. Now that car, it's battle for ninth. The more they fight side by side, too, the more time they lose. Dan West Jr. and John Ottenbacher, 32 3s. Everybody else, 31 9s in front of them.
Having a little bit more tire fall than we've seen. Track temperature is 117 degrees right now, so with West Jr. making that save, no doubt it was kind of a throwback to his dirt racing days, which is what his son Devin is doing now. So he's right at home on this hot, slippery track surface is Dan West Jr., but Ottenbacher with another run to his inside right now. Battle beginning to break out in front of them. Brett Johnson up wall riding, not quite wall riding, but riding up near the wall on the outside into number 7 as West uses the outside lane to his advantage to get back around Ottenbacher. So West Jr. kind of settling down in the 9th position right now, but definitely not the run we were expecting out of the 55 here early.
Indeed. still far along right now with this battle for 6th position. Remember, Brightsman does have a little bit of right front damage. Did cut the fender by tapping the wall in turn 4. And it's so tricky to make sure you don't get too tight and hit that safer barrier, even in the exit of turn 2, because it can come out and grab you at the blink of an eye if you hit the gas even a half a second too early.
And you don't want to do that this early in the race and disrupt your car for what so far has been a 22-lap green flag run with no signs of that stopping anytime soon. Enter the commentator's curse momentarily, but we'll see how this race unfolds. But we mentioned it, you don't want to have too much damage too early in a run, because it could make a long day for you trying to make it around to the pit stop, as we have a change up in the top 5. Seth Frazier gets around Carl Burke. Don't look now, here comes Devin West to the outside of Burke as well. Frazier now up into the 3rd spot, bringing Devin West with him at the line. Drag race at the line, too close for the naked eye. Give it to Burke that time by just 5/1000ths for the 4th spot, but Devin West not going away, as Burke now has lost a couple of spots.
Taking advantage of the move. Frazier originally, mind you, Greg, trying to make the move on the bottom side, didn't work. Slowed both of them up. Eventually got the space on the top side. But here's the thing, if you leave that top line open, as we've already seen in 3 and 4, drivers like Devin West will lick their chops and say, I'll take that spot, while Brightsman nearly dances his way into the grass in the backdrop. Brightsman smacked the wall a 2nd time.
And he has significantly more damage, and that's what we just got done talking about, trying to minimize the damage early in a run, and that is going to be a big hindrance for the 46.
Keep in mind, Dan West Jr. does have some more damage in the 9th position. That's how much the damage is affecting these cars, and Brightsman looks like trying to let Johnson take the top side, and Johnson nearly hit the outside wall as well. Here's the good news, though. If you're some of these competitors, you have a fast repair if you want to use into the pit lane. Bad news, once you use it, it's gone. So it comes down to, the longer this run goes, the more questions come up, and when do you elect to use it?
Well, hopefully Brightsman makes it to at least the 1st round of pit stops, and with the damage being as little as it is, he may or may not elect to try to get a little bit of extra damage if it falls under caution. If we stay green, we'd have to expect the 46 Brightsman, the 55 of West Jr. to try and use those fast repairs on the green flag pit stops if we get them to try to get themselves back in. But a lot of drivers like having the fast repair at their helm here. Justin, I was talking to Seth Frazier, who sits in 3rd right now, and he told me he was trying to figure out a way to get one of those into his real race car for the upcoming season at the Wenatchee Valley Super Oval. I told him good luck with that, and we'll see if it works out for him. But he was going to work sciencing that this past week, and not sure what he was able to come up with. I think he's going to be a little disappointed when we go back to real racing, whenever that may be.
I think you and everybody else is wishing for the same thing. But this is where some of the drivers have cycled out to with all the fights. P9 is currently about 3 seconds behind Sean Brightsman at the moment. Of the drivers in this grouping, West Jr., Paulison, among the drivers with damage, and the caution is out for the first time down the back straightaway, 24th position. Dan Stuzzi, Dana Rogers down the back straightaway brings out the first yellow of the Kansas 200.
That's something we talked about before qualifying, right before I had my connection issues. We were talking about Dan Stuzzi and how he had a good run in practice, just needed some racers' luck in the actual race, and unfortunately, once again, just not there today.
Try and see if we can take a look. Here it is on the LSR TV replay, as you'll see the run right there. Stuzzi pushed up the racetrack, hooked Rogers, and both of them said hello to the safer barrier on the inside wall in the safety crews.
So lap 27, the first caution coming out. Tough break for Dan Stuzzi on pit road, getting the repairs. One car currently being scored a lap down. It is a driver making his debut. He's got number 57 on the door, number 70 on the score pylon, Adam Chisholm, the driver 1 lap down. Not sure if he was a lap down before the caution or not. If yes, he would be in position for the lucky dog, but he is slowing down to come into pit road with the rest of the lead lap cars, as pit road looks like a very busy place, Justin.
Stuzzi and Chisholm, the only two drivers a lap down and 30 laps into the race. At this point, it is a tight one-stop race now from here on out. By the time we go green, it'll be about 100 laps to go. Max amount of fuel, as we talked about 60 laps. And for Jeff Stabnow, drag race with Frazier off the pit lane, able to come out on first. We'll take a step aside. When we come back, we'll have more coverage of the Northwest Cup Series live from the virtual Kansas Speedway. You're watching LSR TV, your home for sim racing.
We're based out of West Monroe, Louisiana. We do custom T-shirts, racing. We'll do any shirt. We'll do schools, churches, fundraisers. We do a ton of event shirts, as you can see on our board here, all around our banner. Personalized. I mean, we do anything. It doesn't matter to us. We got the custom rugs. We use all the, top quality shirts, inks and everything. Hoodies, hats. We do embroidered hats, embroidered shirts. Just you can call us for anything. We do offer the bag and fold, to where you can receive them and they're already labeled and tagged and bagged, ready to give out to your customer and stuff. So you just call us and just tell us, hey, this is what we're looking at doing, and if we're going to put the car on there, it is 125 quantity minimum. If it's without the car, it's 60 quantity minimum. That's strictly on the racing stuff. If it's a business or something, if you race on Texas shirts, it's a little bit differently. You can call us. It just depends on your quantity and ink color. Everything is hand drawn. I mean, everything. We don't Photoshop anything onto a shirt or anything like that. Everything that we go through, everything is drawn, and which is the reason for the art fees. We do have several graphic artists that draw for us, and they're really good. So what we do is on any package that you do, we can mix and match. We can do any colors. You can do purple, red, blue, green, and do the rest black. It doesn't matter to us. With your design on there, we can do hoodies. We can do hoodies, long sleeve shirts, t-shirts, tank tops. It doesn't matter. I mean, it's almost limitless what you can do, and you can put all that together in that package to make that minimum requirements. They can call us 318-278-7191, or they can email us at bulletprooftees@yahoo.com, or they can go to the website bulletprooftees.com.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Kansas Speedway, where at the moment Jeff Stabnow leads the Kansas 200 here on LSR TV for the Northwest Cup Series. Justin Prince alongside Greg Rentz, Charles Wooden in the director's seat. One to go signal on the track. Here's how they'll shape out for the drop of the green flag after a first caution flag of the race. Stabnow, Frazier in row 1, O'Hare and Devin West in row 2, Carl Burke, Chris Wright in row 3, Johnson, Annenbacher, West Jr. and Barnes rounds out the top 10. Of note, Dan Stuzzi now out of the race after being involved in the first caution flag of the night. Fast repair was used by Dana Rogers, who is also involved in the caution, as well as by Dan West Jr. While Brightsman sacrificed all his track position, Greg, and got the damage fixed as much as he could.
And we were talking about that just before the caution came out. I was wondering if Brightsman was able to catch a caution. West Jr. also was included in that, but I was wondering if they got a caution under yellow, they would elect to stay on a little bit longer, sacrifice the track position, get the damage repaired, and hang on to that fast repair for later in the race. And wouldn't you know it, we have one do that, Sean Brightsman in the 46. And honestly, are we really worried about Brightsman? Because we know if anyone's going to try some strategy to get himself back up, it's going to be Brightsman.
Green flags back out, off and away goes Stabnow as the leader. 102 laps to go, and the strategy game from here at this point, Greg, is a one-stopper. So if they get a caution flag within 60 laps to go, these drivers can make it on fuel pending green-white checkers. That'll be interesting how these drivers are on this start and how aggressive they are.
See how it all unfolds. Stabnow was able to break away relatively quickly. Indy number 24. We'll see how it unfolds here as they come around to complete, I believe, the first couple laps of this green flag run. Side-by-side battle for second right now between Frazier and O'Hare. And Frazier in the 32 on the outside. Look at Devin West right up there. Devin West has not missed a step from the initial start of this race, with a little bit of a slide from the number 16 in the 4th position, but he's up there battling with O'Hare right now, trying to break up into the podium, as Frazier, who has been, like we talked about in the pre-race, on a little bit of a downward slide right now, trying to get himself back on the right track, doing a good job here in Kansas today, riding in second as the battle really beginning to take shape for third.
Devin West trying to dime in the corner, all while the fighting continues in and around him. Not able to close in too much, but his dad, meanwhile, is in the thick of things. Chris White drops back to 8th position. Dan West Jr. electing to run the high line. And remember, West Jr. had a crazy first in where he danced around the racetrack, tapped the wall a couple times. Chris White kept his car very clean that entire run, meanwhile, inside the top 10 in the E3.
Yeah, good job by Chris White. Remember, this is his first race with a Ford of the season. Fending off Brian Barnes, who we haven't seen Brian Barnes in a few weeks in the Cup Series, but he's always in the mix when he is on the track. And here he is quietly working his way up from the 21st to the 9th position behind Chris White. So we mentioned Chris White having a good run in the Ford tonight. Great run for Brian Barnes so far, and another Ford started 21st up into the top 10 now in the 9th position after missing a couple of weeks.
And here's the thing when it comes to Barnes, just his 5th start of the season, yes, but he is a fixture inside the top 10, it seems. Every time he started, except for once, he's finished in the top 5 of the NASCAR Hall of Fame machine.
Few wins last year in the Northwest Xfinity Series, the series that this series replaced. Remember, it was an off-season vote by the drivers to switch from the Xfinity cars, the B cars as they're known here on the iRacing server, to the A cars, the Cup Series cars, which we're used to seeing race on Sunday nights. And when they were in the Xfinity cars last year, and Brian Barnes was always in the mix there as well. A couple of wins on the year last year in 2019. So not really surprised to see him able to transition over to the Cup cars and have a pretty successful run, as he's only his 5th start of the year, like you mentioned. But when he's in the field, he's always a fixture to compete for a win. And so far, no real difference from the 4-car.
Carl Burke, meanwhile, has been shuffled out of the top 5. Back to 7th he is, and Chris White trying to take away 7th position at the moment as well. All of this while as the leaders are side by side nearly off of turn 2. Seth Frazier took a peek underneath Stabnow, back to single file on the top line.
Yeah, was watching Frazier really begin to sniff the inside there. Great job by Seth Frazier to get a run, and really he's the first driver we saw really try the inside line for a pass today up at the front of the field, as everyone seems to have been making their moves on the outside thus far, including Frazier. So he's making the inside lane work for the time being. Wasn't able to capitalize and get the pass as he settles back down. And Justin, look what that did though. The side-by-side battle with Stabnow, when it lost his momentum, look what it did. It brought Devin West right back up into the picture as well in the West Family Racing entry. And here he comes to the inside of Frazier. So we'll see if West can make the move on the inside. Yes, he can. Move Devin West up in the second.
Devin West has somehow found a rocket propeller or something on a race car, because at this point of the run, he's been the quickest car on the track both times off the jump. Quickest car on the track 3 straight laps in a row, Greg, before he made that pass on Seth Frazier.
Yeah, Devin West doing a great job in second, but cue the Jaws music, because his father Dan is back into the top 5. Dan West Jr. beginning to make his way back to the field after using the fast repair, back up into the top 5. It won't be too long before Dan West Jr. is knocking on the door as well.
Over the past 5 laps, average lap pace 30.786. That is one the quickest outside of his son, by the way, on the racetrack, but needs to close back up the gap to O'Hare and Frazier at the moment by about 0.3. Up in front of them, both drivers looking fairly confident in the short run, but as we've seen, a lot of drivers have been sliding up towards that wall as these tires have burned off.
Yeah, we're getting a little bit of distance now on these tires. Like you mentioned, about 10 or so laps into this run, a little more. Track temp has calmed down a little bit. It's down to 115. It's still nice and toasty out there on the racing surface, as Stabnow riding the wall, West right behind him doing the same. Frazier a little bit of a lower groove through 3 and 4 that time there, though, Justin. So it looks like Seth Frazier might be wanting to try the bottom here, as he was making a stab at Stabnow, no pun intended, and lost the spot to West when he was stuck on the outside. So it looks like Frazier might like the way the car's handling on the inside a little bit.
Yeah, he's been trying some of those moves tonight so far. O'Hare now trying to make a send. Dives it to the inside. Can he get clear on the apex? No. Frazier, in fact, able to power back on once again. One thing to note, Scott Hutchinson has now dropped from the server. That is due to a technical issue, unfortunately for Hutchinson, who's running in the mid portion of the pack. Up in front of them, though, Devin West continues to be the fastest car on the racetrack. Was a 10th quicker than Jeff Stabnow last time by, and oh, by the way, yes, he's in the dirty air, but he's got the draft on each and every one of these straightaways, and now West has the wall.
Just barely kissed the wall on the apex of 3 and 4. Not even sure if he had another thing. We saw his father get really loose off of turn number 2, similar to what we saw in the first one. Another great save by Dan West Jr. as we were watching his son Devin go to battle with Stabnow for the race lead. His father getting just a little loose off of turn number 4, settling it back down, trying to take another shot at the lead. Here is Devin West, still riding that high side. Doesn't look like the tap to the wall caused any damage to the 16. I think the 16 may have caught a break right there.
Yeah, no damage on his car, but his dad does have some right front damage again. It is stuck in a side-by-side, in fact, with Brett Johnson on the bottom side. Not as bad as it was before, but remember, he's used the faster pair. Now he's going to have to fix it if he gets a caution flag. That's the if in the big if. And mind you, even 10 seconds of damage with this package will lose you at least 5 miles an hour straight line speed at the end of each straight.
Remember, we talked about that near the end of that first green flag run before the caution came out. Him and Sean Brightsman both had damage to the right front of their car, and we were wondering if they were going to use the fast repair. Remember, West Jr. did, Brightsman didn't, and Brightsman has worked his way back up.
Gary Nichols. Gary Bozer also off the racetrack. We stay green as they're off the racing surface.
Gary Nichols was all the way down towards pit road there as he tries to get the 8 car going again. Started up in the top 10 and has just had not the night that he wanted. This is going to bring him back in the 23rd position once it's all said and done. Final car on the lead lap, and he's struggling to get back up to speed. Some damage on the 8 car as well.
West hooked up with O'Hare. Both cars slide. Hard hit for O'Hare on the fence. Caution flag is out for the second time.
And West gets hit by Brian Barnes. They're still wrecking, and boy, oh boy, this changes everything. They're still wrecking. Bill Ross Jr. involved.
Brightsman involved, may have to use the faster pair, and right here, West just ends up hitting the wall, and it's so easy to do that if you lose focus enough, and he was trying, mind you, to block O'Hare at the same time. And O'Hare just sat at the top of the racetrack as everybody else started colliding, just starts to roll off and away. Hard hit for the pole sitter tonight.
That's a tough break for some very, very fast cars. O'Hare was having a great run. Devin West was making a case for himself to possibly be the car to beat here through the middle stages of the race. And Justin, the fastest car in the race, just retired from the race.
Devin West done for the night after being involved in an incident. And should note he did have a small amount of damage on the right front fender, Greg. Now done for the race. Third DNF already as we start lap 51 at the other end of the pit lane. Everybody else down to the lane, though, in total, including caution laps, 21 laps on the stint. Paulson did have to come down and use faster pair immediately due to a meatball flag, it appears. Everybody else, though, it's going to get interesting because as we were showing the cars in the grass, Greg, Frazier was dicing his way on the outside line, took away second. West Jr. had closed in the gap, and everybody else was starting to get really racing.
Yeah, but now we're on pit road, and Dan West Jr. might be in trouble losing those spots there because he has that damage to the right front, and he's out of fast repairs already. So we'll see if he elects to go with the damage. Yes, he will. As the drag race off pit road, looks like Frazier is going to win the battle off pit road.
So move Seth Frazier to the point for the first time tonight. We talked about the ups and downs in recent races for him, looking to try and get some of the consistency that he had at the start of the season back. He's been very quick all night long, Greg. He has been a fixture in the top 5 since the green flag.
Yeah, this is the Seth Frazier that we were seeing at the start of the season, and no doubt the race at the Roval You expected so much more out of that race last week in Charlotte, North Carolina at the Roval, as he has spent so much time running road course. He wanted so much to have a good run. Thought that was the weekend he could get back on track, and unfortunately it just didn't work out for him. And now here he is leading the way at Kansas. So Seth Frazier looking for a bounce back this week, having a good run thus far, been up in the top 5 all day like you mentioned, started 5th, leading the way after winning the drag race off pit road over Jeff Stabnow.
83 laps to go, still 1 stopper on the fuel, and now the strategy game is wide open if we get a long enough green flag run, Greg, because again, they can't make it from here. At the very most, drivers have made it in real life up to maybe 62, but the realistic window, again, 55 to 60. If you're any of these cars, how would you take it? Take the strategy, should I say?
If we can get another caution in probably 30 or so laps, I would feel a lot better, because with it going the way it has, it's going to be so difficult to maintain tires. So we've been averaging a caution, it seems, every 20-25 laps or so. This one was quicker than the last 2, and if I'm in the driver's seat, I'm anticipating it's going to be similar the rest of the way. So I'm planning on at least 1 more stop.
So you're going for the caution breed caution method essentially once the long run comes into play.
Yes, I'm thinking that's how it's going to be. We've seen it all day so far. I'm thinking we're going to have 1 more caution to be able to make a pit stop on.
See if that indeed is the case here as they make their way behind the Irene's official pace car. 1 to go signal is indeed given from the Ford Mustang. Frazier, Stabnow, row 1. Burke and Johnson, row 2. West Jr. and White, row 3. Autumn, Bucker, Weaver, row 4. Lowther and Grande round out the top 10 starting positions. By the way, those cars in 9th and 10th position are 2 of your biggest movers tonight, Greg.
Yeah, we haven't mentioned either of them so far today. Dan Lowther was 2nd quick in practice, missed the boat in qualifying and having to start 23rd position. He's up in the 9th. Roy Grande very quietly moving up 10 spots into the top 10 in the Taco Bell Toyota. So great job by those 2 to get themselves worked up into the picture. But still a long, long way to go. But boy, Lowther and Grande very quietly working their way up through the field. And how about a shout out to the guy in 8th, Bruce Lee Weaver started 16th. He's up in the top 10. First time we've seen him up in the top 10 in a while.
That Can-Am RC machine looks to try and get itself to the point. Was also fairly quick in practice earlier tonight. Clouds are over top the speedway. Marty the Flagman waves the green flag. Back to racing from Kansas.
Seth Frazier with a great restart, and there's what we've seen a few times over the course of the last few weeks. The inside lane getting that great jump on the restart as Frazier able to pull way ahead of Stabnow now, as Carl Burke, who is having an outstanding run here in the 53. Carl Burke must have put a lot of time in the testing here at Kansas this weekend, because he is having a spectacular run in the 53 car after qualifying in the 4th position. He hasn't fallen out of the top 5 yet.
And as someone who's raced on the official service a lot of times, Greg, I've seen Carl Burke on these types of racetracks. He's fairly solid, in fact, on the 1.5-mile circuits, especially on the short to mid run. And that's what exactly we've seen tonight. Been able to stay on these short runs when he's got the track position up at the front. As long as he keeps that top line, Brett Johnson trying to pry it away from him, yes, but Burke's been doing stellar this evening.
Yeah, Burke has done a great job. And you mentioned it, Brett Johnson, another very stellar run for him, starting in the 7th spot. He's been in and out of the top 5 all day long. Hasn't been up this high yet, though. This is the highest that the 7 car has been all day in the 4th position. Dan West Jr. got the damage repaired, but he caught the apron there a little bit, had to chase it back up. Chris White knocking on the door now for the 5th position, final spot in the top 5, but White has to fend off Bruce Lee Weaver, who has gained another spot as he got around Ottenbacher on the restart, as we continue to try to make their way up. And Justin, looking back in the field, something may have happened to Sean Breitsman. He had climbed his way back up into the 16th position. He is now back in the 18th position and just got that back from Daryl Tidrick. So something may have happened again to the 46.
Indeed, and He's had a up and down night. Didn't want to use the fast repair before, had to use it again. Now he's trying to gain back the track position. It hasn't worked out exactly how he's probably expected to go, because remember, he got the right front fix, sacrificed all the track position, then got involved in the big one. All while Stabnow side by side with Frazier and taking the lead back.
Boy, Jeff Stabnow is just so quick once the initial run wears off. But look at the outside lane carry Seth Frazier back up to the door of Stabnow. Great run by Seth Frazier down the backstretch to clear Stabnow. Boy, I thought Stabnow was going to get up in front of Frazier, and that was that. But Frazier saying, no, sir, we are not done here just yet. As I get the run through 3 and 4, Seth Frazier back to the lead. But Stabnow is right there, knocking on the door. And this is allowing Carl Burke to enter the picture, and the cast of thousands behind him.
Stabnow this time takes the bottom side. Frazier taking the middle to top line. Take a look at the inboard, and once again, side by side down the back straightaway. Drivers still side by side into turn 3. Near contact, a bit of a squeeze.
Yeah, Stabnow pushed there in turn number 3. Just barely dodged it, and Stabnow and Frazier saying, hey, sorry about that. As Stabnow loses momentum, move Carl Burke up in the second. Stabnow in third, and he may lose fourth if he's not careful here, or may fall back to fourth, excuse me, as Brett Johnson is there on the outside. Dan West Jr. right behind him, electing to go with him. No, he slides up in behind Brett Johnson. So Stabnow pushing in turn number 3 there. Lost the spot, possibly losing the second one here.
Still stuck on the bottom side. Johnson gets tight to the wall. Still side by side for P number 3. All while Carl Burke now tries to find a way by Frazier. Very tight near contact. Stabnow just can't get off that bottom. Johnson just holding on to the quarter panel with a run off the corner again.
Did you see Chris White back there in the 83? He was peeking his way on the inside of Dan West Jr. West was so caught up trying to figure out who to go with, Stabnow or Johnson. He was almost caught sleeping by Chris White through the Trial Bowl last time. White was thinking about making a move there, but he backed out of it. But Chris White thinking about making moves here as Stabnow is able to settle it back down. Carl Burke was taking another peek on Frazier. It is again Stabnow may have caught the wall there in the turn number 1. This is going to allow Frazier and Burke to break away once again for the time being. West Jr. to the inside now of Johnson as the field sorts out behind them. Frazier able to break away a little bit from Burke. Things settling down, but not for long, as Dan West Jr. has gotten around the 7 of Brett Johnson. Ding, ding, ding. Here comes the 55.
Another round of fighting we go. 71 laps to go this upcoming time by. Still battling for multiple different positions. West Jr. trying to hold on to the top line. Johnson using the bottom line this time. Can't get the run. Battle for second also back on. Stabnow to the inside of Burke this time. Floors his way into the corner. Will he be able to get clear? No. Frazier again tries to arc at a slight touchdown in the middle of the apex in 3 and 4.
Trying to kill that momentum of the 24. Great job by Frazier there to just take enough air off the nose of Stabnow to slow him down, and that allowed Burke to get a run back on the outside, but Stabnow able to clear. Look at Dan West Jr. on the extreme inside here through turn 1 and 2. Oh, he just barely pushed just a little bit, enough to lose his momentum off of turn number 2. Carl Burke settles it back down in the 3rd position. Stabnow back up in the 2nd position now. Frazier was up near the wall off of turn number 4 that last time by. Chris White breaking his way up into the top 5 now. He's in the 4th position.
Now 70 laps to go in this race. All the drivers back to the top line of the top 2. Frazier this time diamonds it off the corner. Stabnow keeps his foot in on the top line. Can he get the run again? Burke and White all closing in. Everyone elects to go on the top side this time.
West Jr. losing touch with the top 4 right now. It's a 4-car breakaway for the time being, but West Jr. trying to snip back up, and here he is getting back onto the slipstream of the 83 of White to make it a 5-car battle once again and try to pull away from Brett Johnson. Bout for the lead, breaking out Stabnow to the inside once again. This is what started the whole thing. As Stabnow tried to get the move on the outside. Here comes Frazier looking for that run. May have caught the wall a couple of times there down the backstretch. Doesn't slow him down any though, as he may have kept it off, but he was dang close as he gets the lead back into turn number 3. Frazier continues to lead the way here at Kansas, but they are not giving it any chance to breathe. The battle continues.
Take a deep breath. Stabnow this time takes the top side, forced to check up hard. Frazier again diamonds the corner. Here comes Burke again on the bottom side. This has all allowed Chris White now to join the fight, making a 3-car battle for second position.
Chris White having a great homecoming party for the Ford Mustang here today. First start of the year in the Ford, going from 13th up to 4th, now trying to break onto the podium with a move to the outside of Carl Burke. Stabnow the only one on the apron. No, Frazier went down to the apron as well in front of him. As they sail off into turn number 1, Frazier about 0.2 of a second ahead of Stabnow there. Here comes White with the preferred line on corner exit on Carl Burke. West Jr. goes with him. We'll see if White can get up into the podium for the first time.
Great execution on the pass for Chris White. Move him up to 3rd and battle for 4th now. Dan West Jr. joins the fun. He takes the top side away.
West Jr. able to push the 83 of White around Burke, and Burke is now in trouble, falling out of the top 5 for the first time today. Stabnow has gotten back to the bumper of Frazier, but Frazier took his preferred line away from him. Stabnow was like in the inside lane for the passes. Frazier went on defense mode. He took the inside to try to hold him off. This time in the turn number 3, Stabnow gets the inside lane. Frazier able to keep him at bay this time. They are battling all over the place. Brett Johnson was able to get around Burke. Carl Burke out of the top 5 for the first time today here on lap number 70.
Coming out at 64 laps to go this time by. Some of the drivers now using that middle line. Battle for the lead side by side. Stabnow again sends it to the bottom. He's tried this a couple times. Floors it to the bottom in turn 3. Can he cut off Frazier? Frazier with the crossover. Side by side again. Move Frazier back to the point of the stripe.
Didn't catch the wall, but that kind of reminded me of the move Carl Edwards once threw on Jimmy Johnson at Michigan, trying to get a last-minute pass on the win. Just threw it to the inside of the Hail Mary and just overdrove the exit, and that allowed Frazier to get right back up in there. Chris White feeling the heat now from Dan West Jr. He knows if he wants a shot at second, he's got to get it now, and he is making the move. Chris White to the inside. He's got to be careful, though, because Dan West Jr. is right in the slipstream of Jeff Stabnow, right in the tire tracks, and here it comes off the turn number 4 to the finish line. White has it at the line, but Dan West Jr. not going away. Brett Johnson creeping up. Look at John Ottenbacher on the back bumper of Carl Burke. He is beginning to fill the mirror. He's up in the 7th spot.
Where did Ottenbacher come from? In the top portion of the field, coming towards 62 laps to go. He started inside the top 10, and now the fights continue. Dan West Jr. and many others still fighting.
West Jr. is able to get around Stabnow. Dan West Jr. look out. Forced the second that time, but maybe not for long. Has it at the line, but they're 3 wide, and West Jr. stuck in the middle, but he guns it through the tri-oval to get the 2nd spot.
Got a little dicey. Dan West Jr. does have a bit of back-end damage from that, fighting for that 2nd spot. Stabnow now tries to make the move down the back straightaway and does.
Stabnow back into the 2nd spot. Incredible racing here at Kansas. Brett Johnson moving to the outside now. Chris White to try to get it in. We got problems behind him. It's Ottenbacher going down into the grass.
Can Ottenbacher keep it straight by the entrance of turn number 1? Bounces his way through the grass. Yes, indeed. Keeps it on the apron. We stay green. Ottenbacher falls outside the top 10. But here's the problem now if you're Jeff Stabnow. Remember the damage we just discussed with him and Dan West Jr.? Stabnow hit the back end of West Jr. in that 3-wide battle for 2nd position. His front nose is crushed in.
And this is allowing Seth Frazier to open up a 0.7 of a second lead last time by, and it may grow this time as the car behind him has a lot of damage. We'll see. Margin at the line stays the same this time, but Frazier trying to get up there and pull away from this battle as it continues. But Justin, this just in, look who's up in the 8th position. The pole sitter, Stephen O'Hare, with the fast repair. He has worked his way back up in the top 10, trying to fend off Brian Barnes in the turn number 3. Barnes gets around him, but don't look now. The 41 has crept his way back into the top 10. He may be up there before too long as well. The 46 of Brightsman, he is up in the top 10 once again.
Whenever you get a lone run, Sean Brightsman says, you know what? This is my time to shine, and shine the purple car he has now back inside the top 10. Remember, we talked about deepest 19th position in this green flag run. He's turned up the wick in this long run.
Great job by both O'Hare and Breitzman. Things settling down for the time being up front. Chris White right now peeking to the outside of Brett Johnson. That'll be for the 4th spot, but right now things settling down for the time being. They are beginning to reel back up to Seth Frazier as things were able to settle down. Now Frazier, no doubt, was like, no, keep going by all means. But it's just not to be for now as things have settled down. And before too long, Stabnow is going to be right there with Frazier. But how much will that nose damage affect him?
West Jr. hit the outside wall in turn 3. The whole side of the car is now crushed in. And Dan West Jr.'s race continues to spiral a bit now. Tons of damage on that race car on the front, right front, the side of the car, the back of the car. Just about every piece of the car, except for the left side's been damaged now.
You remember, he already has used that fast repair. This could make it a long rest of the day for West Jr. And both the West family racing cars had so much potential here coming into this race. Dan West Jr. qualifying 2nd. Devin West probably was the fastest car on the racetrack before his accident earlier on in the race dropped him out of the race. And West Family Racing had 2 very, very fast Chevy Camaros here today. Unfortunately, the race just not going the way they wanted it to, but West Jr. is not exactly giving up as he is still hanging there with the 24 of Stabnow and keeping the 7 of Brett Johnson at bay.
Taking a look for the back end of West Jr. specifically right now, and the interesting thing, the times have been either dead even or gaining, in fact, again, because of the slipstream effect. Again, with that big spoiler, it allows drivers to draft their way back of the air cars. It's very difficult to break the draft with this package. It's been a talking point for the past couple years. That's factoring in even with the damage for guys like West Jr., for Stabnow, for Johnson. Despite all the damage for the top 2 runners in the group, they're railing their way in. Frazier just tapped the wall himself now to add some damage to balance things out.
And I think Frazier was one of the few cars left that did not have any kind of damage whatsoever, and now he's got quite a bit on the right side, and this is allowing West Jr. to come up. Dan West Jr. to the inside of Stabnow for 2nd, gets it through 1 and 2. Stabnow's going to have to run on the backstretch, though. There it is, off of turn number 2. Stabnow fighting back. They have caught up to Seth Frazier. No doubt that damage playing a role in it, or in them being able to catch up to Frazier. Carl Burke hanging on to the tail end of this group. He's beginning to creep back into the picture of the top 5 now as Chris White falling up into his position. Look at Brett Johnson. He was able to get around Dan West Jr. Brett Johnson up as high as he's been now in 3rd.
Lots of crazy shuffling around this racetrack now. Should note Gary Nichols went to the grass a 2nd time tonight. Ricky Boser has just opened up the pit stop window, all while the leaders still run the top line. And at this point, it's about to get fun. Here comes Breitzman. Here comes Stabnow. A bit of a tap. Side by side. All battling for the race lead once again. Frazier back to the apron. Bit of a squeeze as the 24's back on the top.
Stabnow getting the run on the outside. Jeff Stabnow back to the lead in the number 24 as he clears Frazier off of turn number 2. What does Brett Johnson do in the number 7? As he had a run on Frazier, but Frazier was able to shut the door and get just enough speed built back up before he gets up just close to the wall. Johnson coming on the inside there a little bit. Chris White peeking low. Couple more players beginning to enter the picture behind them as Carl Burke is not alone anymore. Roy Grande, Brian Barnes, and Sean Breitzman have caught up to Burke not too long before they're up here battling as well. Breitzman gets around Barnes, moved Breitzman up into the 8th spot. Don't look now, the 46 coming.
Yeah, you heard me nearly say, here comes Breitzman. That's because in the past 10 laps, he is the only driver inside the top 8 to record an average lap in the 31.9s. Everybody else in front of the 32s. Trouble in front. Chris White's around to the grass. Spins in front of the track. Caution flag is out. And for the 3rd time tonight, the yellow flag is up in the air.
And Chris White was running up in the top 5, and that is definitely a heartbreaker. First race out in the Ford was having such a strong run. Not sure what happened there.
Well, you've seen West Jr. tap the wall in front of him, I think, Greg, and Just nowhere for Chris White to go when you have a car hit the wall that quickly. Just no time to react right here. Good job by him to lock it up, though, to make sure it didn't pinpawn off that outside safer barrier down the front stretch.
Well, Justin, we can catch our breath now. For the first time, seems like an hour.
I think Jeff Stabnow is definitely breathing a sigh of relief because, again, that front nose is still crushed in. But here's the thing. Now with the faster pair, can get that car fixed, and it might be one of the main things here. If he kept that lead with the damage, who knows what would have happened by the time they got to pit stops.
Yeah, we'll see how it all unfolds. One car, no doubt, we're going to be watching is Dan West Jr. A lot of damage on the 55 and already used the fast repair. We'll see how long he's able to stay on pit road and get how much damage repaired. How long do you think it's going to be? And is he in trouble of possibly even losing a lap if there's too much damage?
That's going to be a massive gamble, too, because the importance of track position. Dan West Jr. has it completely crushed in back end at this point from that contact after Chris White hit the back end of him after he slammed the outside wall. Everyone off onto the jacks. We're about to find out who comes out with a good track position. Keep note that before these pit stops, Brightsman got up to 7th at the top of the yellow.
Brightsman's one of those guys who is known to take some risks in a position like this. Not this time, though. He's going with 4, and let's go. Dan West Jr. trying to get as much damage as he can. He gets going, but he's going to come out middle of the pack. Got some of the damage fixed, possibly all of it. The back end is repaired on the 55, but now he is going to have a lot of traffic to deal with.
Back to P9 specifically for West Jr. Seth Frazier came out in 2nd, Brett Johnson in 3rd. And give a shout out to the 72 machine. BJ Tidrick now into the top 10 for the first time tonight, Greg.
I believe he may have took 2 tires as he was being scored in the 20th position at the time of the caution. So BJ Tidrick in the Winston Ford might be attempting a little bit of strategy here to try to get himself back up in the picture.
Can't confirm, by the way, he took 4 tires, but remember, there were a few drivers had a lot of bumps and bruises on the race cars tonight.
And we've had so many of those that some of those drivers you mentioned with the bumps and bruises may have already used the fast repairs, such as Dan West Jr. and others, so he was able to gain more ground because they were stuck on pit road getting more damage repaired.
Indeed, Seth Frazier didn't use his fast repair on that caution flag period in pit stops. Johnson's car's clean. Carl Burke's car's clean. Roy Grande's up to 5th as well, despite the fact his right front fender is bumped in. And remember, Sean Brightsman in P6 has also used his. Barnes with a clean car. Tidrick does have a bit of back-end damage. West Jr. got some damage repaired in P9. And Dan Lowther has quietly moved his way back in the top 10 despite his right front fender all crushed in. So it's been a battle of the clean cars versus the non-clean cars and the faster pairs versus the non-faster pairs left.
It's been definitely an interesting race, and when we talk about strategy, normally fast repair is not something we talk about, but we're seeing differing moves on using the fast repair. Sean Brightsman elected to save it. He has worked his way back up. Seth Frazier electing to save it. He's still up there in the 2nd spot. Dan West Jr. used it and may have used it too early because of the fact of the race he's had since then. He has had a hard time keeping track position on pit road, having to change damage. Brett Johnson hasn't had to worry about that. Jeff Stabnow, a lot of damage there. He used it to keep himself up in the lead. So a lot of different strategies on who wants to use the fast repair and who doesn't right now.
Wanted to go signal by, the way, on the racetrack. And again, you talked about it a bit. The trend before was about a caution every 20, 30 laps. That was around the mark. We got about 30 laps or so before that 3rd caution flag. Do you see that trend continuing here with 45 to go at the green?
45 to go, maybe. If they can settle down and not push it so much, maybe. But here's the thing, 45 laps to go is a lot different than 70 laps to go when we had that last restart. So I am not sure we've seen the last caution yet, Justin. We may see him go the rest of the distance. We know they can go about as long as what's left on the race, but it'll be interesting to see how they race, knowing that time is beginning to run out.
All the drivers can make it on fuel from this point on in this race. Question's going to be, who will take home the checkered flag tonight? Jeff Stabnow in the Walls Beard Co. machine in control of the field, off and away on an early jump, back to racing at Kansas.
Brett Johnson getting them run on the inside of Seth Frazier. Gets the second spot. Brett Johnson up in the second for the first time here tonight, trying to get up and lead his first laps in a long time in the Cup Series, as he's trying to get up now to Jeff Stabnow, who has been, remember, struggling a little bit on the short run. It seems to take Stabnow's car about 5 laps to really get to where he likes it, but having that preferred lane the inside really did him a big favor by being able to get the preferred lane on the inside. And it's a mess behind them. They're 3 wide back there. Brightsman, Barnes, and Grande were 3 wide there through the tri-oval. So remember what I said about possibly settling down? Nah.
By the way, there was the discussion, it appears, from race control about a lane change for that position battle for second. Johnson had to sacrifice the position. We'll see how that shapes out in later discussions. But right now, Stabnow was already pulled away by 0.6 of a second from all the shuffling. Right now, the top 4, all single file, make up the top 6.
But if they can get single file and get themselves into a draft like we've seen over time, it's not going to be long at all before they're able to catch right back up to the 24 of Stabnow, and we're back to what we were seeing before that caution came out. So we'll see if the guys in 3rd, 4th, 5th on back will settle down quicker than later. And it doesn't look like it, as Carl Burke was trying the apron there to try to get him run on Brett Johnson, as Brightsman taking the outside. Notice that 3 cars taking the inside lane and 2 taking the outside there through 1 and 2. Frazier, Johnson, and Burke on the inside. Brightsman and Grande went outside. So interesting, they're seeing different strategies right now, especially with the 24 of Stabnow pulling away a little bit by a little bit. Was 0.7 of a second last time. We'll see what it is this time. As Stabnow crosses the strike, it was 0.2 of a second more that time. Now 0.9 of a second. You would have to think that the guys in 2nd, 3rd, 4th on back would be trying to settle things down here pretty quickly so they can try to catch up and not let Stabnow get too far ahead.
Indeed, and right now, Stabnow is pulling 0.2 a lap. That's how quick of the pace he's going in this clean air. And based on what we're seeing, the thought process, I think, at this point has to be, and you can see the separation already on the track map alone. Do you think at this point Stabnow is trying to go, well, again, we talked about the importance of tire saving. Frazier and co might be saving.
Stabnow may be thinking there's one more caution, so he's trying to get as far away from the field as possible to keep that lead for as long as possible. Frazier, Johnson, Burke, and others, they seem more inclined to ride it out and say, hey, we may have a long run here. Let's settle things down amongst us and let's go try to get him. It is continuing to pull away. It is that number 24. It's like he flipped a switch. Still 0.2 of a second per lap he's putting on. It's up to 1.2 seconds. Justin, this is by far the biggest lead anybody has had in the race thus far. Jeff Stabnow is pulling away from Frazier, Johnson, and Burke, and it might be too long, it might not be too long before he's so far ahead that these guys are not able to catch back up.
Yeah, that is definitely a thought process here to try and break that draft. But again, the faster he goes, the more he burns up the tires, the more he burns up the tires, the more that time eventually will swing by. Still pulled about a 1/10 or 2 last time by. And you almost have to wonder, too. Remember, Frazier has the right front damage on that race car as well that he didn't elect to fix. Did tap the wall to add a touch bit more of it, if that is affecting the speed of the head of this pack, as well as Burke jumps his way to the second car in the line.
Ultimately, we would have to see a car with no damage get up in front of Frazier to see if that is indeed the case. We might see here Burke going to the inside, got around Brett Johnson, has him cleared, and is going after Seth Frazier. So Burke may be trying to get up there and say, hey, let's have a clean car up front try to make a move here. It's great back here from second on back. It is slicing and dicing like we've seen. Brightsman on the high side like we've seen. What a great run for Roy Grande in the 51 as well. Started 20th, up in the 6th position. He has done a spectacular job here today, keeping the 51 car relatively out of trouble as they continue to try to sort things out here, and Stabnow continues to pull away. It's now 2.2 seconds.
Here comes Brightsman now starting to move his way towards the head of the group. Bit of a bump draft, takes the run to the back end of the 53. Here he shuffles him out of the way. To the bottom line goes the 53 again. But Brightsman looks like he's starting to get a little bit impatient. Wants to try and go. Actually got out of throttle going into the corner entry, in fact.
Yeah, Brightsman sees the 24 of Stabnow pulling away. Still 2.2 seconds a lap. Every single time they cross the strike, Brightsman knows if he wants to have a shot, if this thing stays green for the final 34 laps, he has to get up there, and he has to get up there as soon as possible. And that means they have to get around the 32 of Frazier, who I think you're right, Justin. I think the damage on the 32 is keeping these guys at bay. Burke has a good run here off of turn number 4. We'll see if he's able to get there. Frazier tries to shut the door, and this is allowing Brightsman to get a run. Brightsman may force him to the outside as Frazier may have caught the wall again.
Yes, indeed. This pack is 3 miles an hour slower at the end of the front straightaway each time by right now compared to Stabnow. The patience has worn thin. Bump drop from Brightsman. Frazier again takes the lower arc on corner entry. Again, a bit of the squeeze forces Burke off the gas. Here comes Brightsman up into third spot. Trouble behind, Barnes in the grass. He sheds his way through the infield. Still no caution as he comes back on track.
I was getting ready to say Frazier might be hoping to hang on for a caution. He had thought he was going to get it right there, but Brian Barnes did a great job to keep it wound up there. Now Brian Barnes is back, way back now. Stephen O'Hare is all the way back now in the 17th position. Gary Nichols gets around Barnes as well. That's where Brian Barnes settles things down. So Seth Frazier, I think, maybe holding on, hoping for a caution, and he could use the fast repair. I don't think he was trying to see what the car would do without the fast repair, and I don't think it's going the way he thought it was going to. Jeff Stabnow 3 seconds ahead. I think the rest of the field is going to need a caution. I think it's too late now for them to maybe catch up to Stabnow unless something happens. Jeff Stabnow 3 seconds ahead of the rest of the field. That may be too much to ask if we stay green.
Yeah, and Brightsman is absolutely flying. 187 last time by into turn 1. 184 for Frazier. Frazier's quarter panel has been crumpled in. Frazier loses the top side. The 46 of Brightsman now forces Frazier to take the bottom. Back to single file they go. Diamond effect from Brightsman forced to lift.
Remember though, Frazier was liking the inside lane earlier in the race. Brightsman giving him a shove down the backstretch here. Brightsman trying to get around Frazier, doing anything he can. Jeff Stabnow continues to pull away. It is growing and growing and growing as Brett Johnson now taking a peek to the inside of Carl Burke. Caution is out. Frazier may have caught a break.
And this is huge. Paulison is the caution flag. Stephen Paulison from 14th position got hit in the back end by O'Hare in traffic. He was having a check up as well for Frank Harris. You see him up the road, and bye-bye 58.
Caution coming out, closing stages of the race. Justin, I'd have to imagine if anyone pits right now, it'd be the final stop of the race. And if anyone is going to try some strategy here, now's the time.
Stabnow has to be thinking, wow, that had to have happened. 3-second lead to the point where he's the first car by a mile to the pace car. By the way, Paulison had already used his fast repair in one of the earlier caution flags tonight. Seth Frazier has also confirmed he elected to hold on to the fast repair, actually apologized to his competitors, is planning to use it this time, Gray.
Yeah, and you have to imagine he was going to, because he saw just how much it was affecting that 32 car. He caught the brake there, and he is in good position, though. It worked out. He did what he was able to do, or what he wanted to do. He wanted to hang on to second and hope for a caution. He got it, still in position here, and now a caution is out, and he's going to have a brand new number 32 Mustang out there. So it may have worked out for Frazier in the long run, and no doubt he feels bad as the rest of the field was trying to get around him, but he did what he was trying to accomplish there.
You can take a guess on which driver did not want him to use the fast repair, and a bit of tightness on the pit road entry. Brightsman and Frazier both had to check up a little bit early in their respective stalls. It got to the point where on iRacing you do go through the specific cars. Once you get inside the pit boxes, both of them nearly collided just before that mark. As they go off and away, that allows Stabnow to come out as the leader.
Stabnow comes out as the leader, but Seth Frazier with the fast repair is able to beat Brightsman out there, and we may have ourselves a nice little three-horse race here between Stabnow, Frazier, and Brightsman, but don't count out any of those guys who have been having very good runs up there. Carl Burke, Dan West Jr. has finally was able to get a pit stop without having to get any damage repaired, and he was able to get out in front of Brett Johnson for 5th position as well, get around Carl Burke. Or no, I'm sorry, Roy Grande, not Carl Burke. Carl Burke has got out in front of him, but Jeff Stabnow, Dan West Jr., I need to drink some water. He got 2 spots there on that pit stop.
Will allow you that chance. 23 cars plus are on the lead lap, coming to 26 laps to go next time by. You're watching OSR TV, your home for sim racing. We'll be back after this break.
They say everything is bigger. These guys down in Texas aren't messing around. This feature race will separate the boys from the men, the girls from the ladies. Can you handle racing 300 laps for $25,000? It's not as easy as you think. We don't stop to tow those too weak. We just push them out of the way. We don't run 20 laps. We run 300 each night. We don't care about what you and your boys have under the hood. Bring all you got. Don't be scared. Call my Cowboy Jack today to get signed up. It all goes down on October 2nd and 3rd in Mesquite, Texas, just outside of Dallas. Kenny Wallace is coming back this year to try again. You don't have excuses. Go to LoneStar600.com now.
Welcome back, everyone, to Kansas Speedway for more coverage of the Kansas 200 in the Northwest Cup Series. Justin Prince, Greg Rentz, Charles Wooden in the director's seat as Jeff Stabnow is your race leader, coming to 25 laps to go when the green flag drops once more from Marty the Flagman. Frazier, Brightsman, Burke, West Jr. round out your top 5. Greg, it's been an entertaining race so far. Some great battles for the lead, some interesting strategy calls. What do you expect to see here when this green flag flies again for 25 more laps to go?
More of the same, Justin. I'm thinking this is going to be it. We know who has the fast cars. We know who is thinking what at this point of the race. I'm thinking it's go time, and I'm thinking we're going to see everybody going all out to try to get themselves in a position to win. We know who's got what, and now we're going to see who can capitalize on it.
Indeed here. Some of the fans watching along tonight, keeping track of not just that 24 and 32 in the battle that's been going amongst them, but Sean Brightsman. Can he lead some of his first laps of the night? We'll have to wait and see. Green flag ready to go.
Top 3 cars each have 2 wins on the season, and then Carl Burke looking for his first win of the year. Then another 2-win driver, Dan West Jr. in the 55. Green flag for shootout.
Once again, back off and away. Stabnow with a good launch. Sean Brightsman off and away on the bottom side. And that bottom line has been the preferred line all night on these restarts. As a matter of fact, the whole top 5 has run away.
Top 5 breaking away. Dan West Jr., the oddball out right now on the inside. Boy, here we go up front. Frazier to the inside of Brightsman. We may see 3 wide for the lead here off of turn number 4. No, Brightsman tucks back in behind the 24 to go to the outside. Stabnow continues to lead, but Sean Brightsman smells the lead for the first time today. He wants it. Seth Frazier on the inside, not going away. That 32 just used that fast repair. He is right back in the mix and has just as much speed as we saw previously for it. I liked what I saw at 32 before. He may have something to say before the end of this. They settle down for the time being.
Anybody's race at this point with 23 laps to go this time by. Back to single file amongst the top drivers. All that fighting for second and third position allowed Chris White and Brett Johnson to hook back onto the back end of the caboose. First side by side behind them is Bacher and Grande as the rest of the leaders now focus on one thing, reeling back in Stabnow to resume the fight for P1.
They do not want to let what happened that last run happen again and allow Stabnow to get that 3-second lead, and it doesn't look like it's going to happen this time as Brightsman is not letting him get away. As Brightsman getting right up on the back bumper of Stabnow once again through the tri-oval, catching the draft. Here he comes. Not too long, we're going to have a battle here for the race lead. Brightsman taking the higher line in the turns 1 and 2. Stabnow slides up to take the draft away. Here we go once again. A great run from Brightsman.
By the way, track the coolest it's been all day long. 108 degrees Fahrenheit. That means we're seeing the fastest laps of the day. Jeff Stabnow a couple laps ago set the fastest lap of the race. Brian Barnes set it the pastime by. Blistering pace around this racetrack. About a 1/10 of a second quicker was Brightsman up at the front. Near side by side, dive to the inside for Brightsman. The 46 side by side with the 24 again for the race lead.
Great crossover move by Brightsman there to get to the door of Stabnow. The guy who likes seeing this happen in his windshield is Seth Frazier in the 32 up in the third spot, because he knows these two go in the battle with Carl Burke set up behind him and can allow him to catch back up to the battle. Brightsman lost touch with Stabnow though, and here we go once again. He's going to have to try to reel him back in. Battle for 5th. Chris White back in the picture. Remember, he was junk on the front stretch not too long ago. He got the fast repair and he's back up knocking on the door of the top 5.
Gained a lot of the positions he had lost already in the span of a few laps or so. He's also one of the quickest cars on the track right now. Have to see how these drivers shape themselves out. Now 19 laps to go. Most of the drivers have gone to either the top line the whole way in 1 and 2 or trying to dime in the corner. Race lead back up for grabs. Brightsman to the back bumper this time. Forced to check up from Stabnow.
Looks like it takes Brightsman about 2 laps to catch back up to Stabnow if he loses the momentum like we saw the previous time. We'll see if it happens again this time. Everybody down on the apron through the tri-oval this time. Closing stages at Kansas. It's been a wild race, and the finish is seeming to shake up like just that. And here we go through turn 2. Brightsman taking a move on the inside, falls back in behind Stabnow. Seth Frazier trying to catch the slipstream now of Brightsman.
Again, trying to regroup. He has been a 1/10 of a second quicker, but it's easy to catch somebody. It's difficult to pass them. And it's been that type of day here at Kansas. More clouds above the racetrack as well. So as this day has progressed here, Greg, the track has been getting more and more cool each and every time those fluffy clouds cover over top the track.
That cools the track off, and it's allowing us to see, like you mentioned, the fastest laps of the race. The clouds coming in at the perfect time to really shake this race up. Carl Burke took a run on the inside of Frazier in the turn 3 there. Not to be, as Frazier trying to get back up there. Throws a little bit of a block on Burke. Dan West Jr. hanging back there in 5th. Don't count that 55 out. He has had a roller coaster day, but he is up in the top 5 here still in the closing stages.
Trying to dive to the inside, has to check back up. And mind you, too, that is with a fair amount of damage on that race car. I'm surprised he's been able to hold on to a top 5 with how hard he's hit that race car a couple times.
It has been a wild day. We saw it numerous times through the course of the race. Dan West Jr. having to stay on pit road and sacrifice track position to try to get damage repaired on the 55 as he used his fast repair on the first caution of the day. It seems so long ago, but Dan West Jr. has really had an up and down day. And now you may have just got the 4th spot from Carl Burke. Don't look now. Back goes the 53.
Johnson also just scraped the wall as well, coming through 3. This time taps it in 4, hits Burke. Caution flag is out. And it is a big one for the complexion of this race. 2 of the contenders now to the back of the field with a caution.
Johnson caught the wall, like you mentioned in turn 4, caught it again on exit and shot down right in front. And Burke was right there, and they both hit the wall. Those were 2 very hard licks. And Carl Burke, one of the fastest cars all day. Brett Johnson was up in the top 5, up as high as 2nd at one point. 2 of the fastest cars in the field are now damaged quite extensively.
And of course, when it comes to the cooler temps, the grip levels go up, yes, but that means the speeds also have a chance to go up. And we've seen potentially some of that factor as everyone's trying to wait for the pace car. That's why they're stopping on the apron here. Everybody to the pit lane either way here now as they've finally got that pace car.
All right, here they come on the pit road. Justin, we're inside of 15 to go. Anyone going to take 2 tires here to try to make it the rest of the way?
I've seen it from 12 laps on green tires before. It hasn't worked well. Let's put it that way. We'll see if anyone tries to do a gamble or if anyone tries to take the 4 tires in the positive grip for a restart, which could take place under 10 to go. And yes, somebody tried it. It's down now and a bunch of cars who do it. Brightsman, Frazier, as well as Roy Grande all took 2.
Very, very interesting to see the top 3 all take 2 tires. Seemed like every single one of them was on the same wavelength here and saying, hey, 2 tires might be it here. And I wonder if the fact that Sean Brightsman was so high up in the standings had Stabnow and Frazier thinking to take 2 tires because they knew Brightsman had a knack for taking 2 tires in this position. I wonder if they did that because they knew Brightsman was going to, just because of the fact that Brightsman is known for it.
Yeah, and by the way, BJ Tidrick, I should rather say, missed his pit box. But he is not elected to come down a second time. He has the ability to come down with 2 to go because he did go down the pit lane. So that gets him a point on the bright side. If he stays out, this could really shake things up here.
So by my math, the first driver with 4 tires should be the 55 of Dan West Jr., correct?
Yes, indeed. Him, White, Ottenbacher on 4.
All right, so we have our setup right now. Stabnow, Brightsman, Frazier, Grande, 2 tires. Dan West Jr. on back 4. BJ Tidrick staying out for the time being, but we'll see if he elects to come down on pit road this time.
By the way, the reason you've seen the replay there, sometimes you get a speeding penalty, have to let everybody go. The way Bruce Lee Weaver did it was went in the grass, ripped apart the grass, and let everybody he had to go. Now he's catching up to the drivers. He has to pass as well.
So interesting developments on pit road, and that's a shame for Bruce Weaver because he was having a pretty solid run. He was up in the top 10 at one point as well, trying to get up there in the mix and settle this thing down. And Justin, I'm watching Tidrick scrub the tires right now, so it looks like BJ Tidrick has no intention of coming in. So this is going to be a very, very interesting restart.
Oh, he's made his bed. Still warming up the tires here. Lights are out on top of the iRacing official pace car. This could get wild now as Tidrick is in control of the field. Then the cars behind him have 2 tires in Stabnow, Brightsman, Frazier, Grande. 4 tires for West Jr., Chris White, John Ottenbacher, Corey Walters on 2 tires, and then Bill Ross Jr., who's been quietly floating from 10th to 12th all night, rounds out P10 on the board. Oh boy, 10 to go. This could get very hairy in turn 3.
Justin, how many laps does Tidrick have on those tires for those at home?
Well, remember, it came down the pit lane about 12 laps on green flag tires. 15 to 17 in total.
So that's your difference right there. Let's see how it goes for the 72 as we get ready. Oh boy, this is going to be fun.
Fasten your seatbelts, get your bubble wrap, get your pillows. It's time to get interesting. Off and away, BJ Tidrick with an early launch. Green flags out, back to racing at Kansas. Jeff Stam now still fighting side by side across the stripe. Brightsman again takes advantage of the bottom side to move to second.
Brightsman with a good move on the inside. Tidrick got a good launch, but now we're seeing even what two-tire difference has, even with just 12 laps. 2 tires, 12 laps. Different. Stab down on the wall. He comes down in front of Frazier. We got problems.
2, 3, multiple cars involved. Stabnow up in the air. Caution flag is out. And a hard hit for Weaver as well, with the back end of Frazier on top of things. Stabnow, who led a majority of the laps tonight, now has turned into a modified after one of the biggest wrecks of the day.
Man, oh man, this thing just keeps taking twists and turns.
And he hit the safer barrier coming off of turn 2, just the edge of it before it's straightening out off the corner. And it ends up collecting multiple contenders in this race today, Greg.
But Justin, I'm noticing a few of the heavy hitters that we saw on 4 tires made it through. Chris White, Dan West Jr., John Ottenbacher all made it through that. So those are 2 of the drivers on 2 tires. Now it's just Brightsman and Grande, the camp left on 2 tires up front. BJ Tidrick's still in the lead.
Yeah, he was nearly about to be passed for the race lead in turn 3 and 4, it looked like.
West Jr. on pit road. Dan West Jr., the 55, pitting from the 6th position. He may be electing to get some damage repaired.
Yeah, his front nose is absolutely crumpled in from that incident. And it had to come down to get the damage, especially if it's motor damage.
Yeah, absolutely. No doubt the 55 may not have made it to the end of the day. So such a promising run for West Family Racing. Goes up in smoke twice. And that's even worse for Dan West Jr. because he had already used the fast repair, as had both Frazier and Stabnow. So those drivers are stuck on pit road. Bruce Lee Weaver has retired from the race. And here we go once again as soon as we go green.
Very busy place right now is pit road. Frazier, who's contended for a lot of the time. Just unfortunate luck tonight. We'll take a step aside for just a moment. When we come back, we'll see how things shake out here. 7 to go, this time by from Kansas. Been listening to some of the sounds as these drivers rev their engines behind the iRacing official pace car. Standing by with Jeff Stapp now. In fact, right now, Jeff, what happened?
It was just tight racing. I clipped the wall there a little bit, trying to squeeze between Sean and the wall. So Sean doesn't think he gave me enough room, and I think I just didn't stick it in there right. So we'll see after we watch the replay. Just good hard racing there at the end of the race, and it was just a tight spot for me, and he got the wall.
What came down to the decision to take 2 tires, because you and multiple others did so?
You know, we didn't have that many laps on those tires, and we're getting down to the restart, and track position is everything here. I debated it. I really wasn't sure whether or not. I was actually kind of loose on those 2 tires too, but it really came down to track position and not wanting to give it up with 20 laps to go.
Your thoughts on BJ Tidrick's call as well to stay on old tires after he missed his pit box?
I think BJ was probably a bit of a sitting duck out there. I'm not sure that I could have kept Sean off. If I could have stayed on the outside, I think I probably could have passed them both in 3 and 4. I was kind of hoping I could. If not, I thought Sean was running pretty good too, but I thought there was about 4/10 fall off on those tires. So I think staying out there on all 4 was going to be pretty tough.
Coming towards the 1 to go signal right now, your expectations, what we're about to see here for what appears to be a 5-lap shootout, Jeff?
It's hard to say on that one. I think probably more carnage, maybe another wreck up there, green-white checker or something like that. So, we'll see. There's a lot of guys on 2 tires. It's pretty loose going through 1 and 2 on those 2 tires, so that'll be the first one to watch. No idea what it's going to do in 3 and 4. If they get a lap, get the air pressures up in those tires, maybe it settles out and they make it to the end.
Let you get back to repairing the car. Thank you very much for the time.
You bet.
Jeff Stabnow currently in the garage area. Bruce Lee Weaver also done for the night after that incident. Currently Stabnow in 21st position. About to be falling to 22nd by the time of the green flag. But fasten your seatbelts, folks. 5 laps to go. Old tires leading the group on the bottom side. Brightsman on 2 tires on the outside. Grande on 2. White on 4. Autumnbacher on 4. Ross on 4. Tidrick with a very early launch. Back off and away we go.
I think that's what Tidrick had to do to try to get out there. He had to go as soon as the pace car pulled off to try to get as much of a lead as he could to try to get his pressures built up. So, like Stabnow mentioned, I think Tidrick had to do that there to try to get out and get in front of Brightsman, but we're not sure how long it's going to work.
BJ Tidrick defends the bottom side. Brightsman for the race lead for the first time tonight. And the Toyota Camry powers his way up to the race lead. Brightsman runs away. Here comes Chris White behind Tidrick.
Remember Chris White. Oh, problems behind him. Dan Lowther around and we're wrecking. Lowther caught the wall. Carl Burke involved. Others involved. We stay green for the time being. 3 cars in the grass. Burke, Lowther, and one other. I didn't catch the number, but we have got all kinds of problems on the back stretch, or the front stretch, but we stay green.
One of them was the newcomer in Chisholm as well in that, but Tidrick is sitting duck. 4 tire cars trying to rip their way around. Now the caution is out. Caution is out in turn 3. Daryl Tidrick involved, as well as, I believe, Frank Harris. Yes, indeed, it started all the way on the back straightaway. Harris and Daryl Tidrick got tangled, and then Daryl Tidrick said hello to the safer barrier nearly. I think they were trying to get around Autumnbacher, Greg.
It just bit them there. So the caution doesn't come out for the problems the lap before, but did this time, and yeah, we're not done yet.
Mind you, we had 4 cars in the grass, and because they're off the racing surface, the race stayed green. A couple of them are still just getting out of the grass at the time of the yellow flag. But green-white-checkered time. And Sean Brightsman, we've been talking about him all day. One point had to use the faster pair as deep as 19th position, was involved in one big one. Now he's in contention to win this. Here's the problem. Chris White on 4 tires will be starting alongside him when we go back green.
We're going to have to see Brightsman do the same move that Tidrick did, I believe, because those 2 tires is going to come up into effect here on this finish more than ever. I think we're going to see Brightsman try to pull the same move Tidrick pulled there on that restart, because he knows now his buffer with the 2 tires is gone. He's got a guy on 4 tires to his outside. Going to be interesting, but how about BJ Tidrick getting some luck to be able to hang on to the top 3 right now?
Yeah, just the right amount of timing on some of these caution flags from hold on track position. And he's been not willing to just go to the side and just sacrifice the positions either. He's going to be fighting for them because it's a race and he's not wanting to lose points, it seems, Greg, for obvious reasons.
How cool would it be for Tidrick if a mistake, missing his pit box on pit road late in the going, turns into a top 5? He might be able to pull this off if things go his way here on this restart.
Now, as these drivers are lined up behind the iRacing official pace car, a couple of things to know. First, Stephen O'Hare is now back on the lead lap. That is now 20 cars on the lead lap for this upcoming restart. It is also a green-white-checkered restart, meaning the race will now be extended past this point next time by specifically. Now, in the event if there is a caution flag before they get to the white flag during this first green-white-checkered attempt, they will go to a second attempt. If the race has a second caution flag, though, before they see the white and take the white, then the race's official will end under caution. However, If either of the green-white-checkered attempts do take the white flag, race is official. Anything that happens at that point, who knows, is the best way to put it. In other words, you get the white, you finish the race. That's the goal if you're Brightsman.
Sean Brightsman, he's going to have to haul as fast as he can around this 1.5-mile oval and get to the white flag before Chris White is able to settle things down. The good news for Chris White on the inside is we've seen the inside really be the preferred lane. BJ Tidrick on much older tires, he may be able to fall in behind Brightsman much quicker than we've seen the outside lane in the past, because the older tires might allow, or the older tires on Tidrick might allow White to be able to get that spot, because Tidrick might not be able to get up to speed as quickly.
By the way, you just seen there Daryl Tidrick stop at the side of the road. That's because if you end up breaching the incident limit, which there is one where you do have to serve a drive-through at 14 incident points per iRacing scoring, you are given an end of longest line penalty, so you can properly serve that penalty without impeding the progress of other cars off the restart, or without risking giving them a black flag save. You immediately pull off into the pit lane. Daryl Tidrick, unfortunately for him, has done that twice tonight.
I had 14 incident points in a Legends race last night. I was not thrilled with that one. So unfortunate for Tidrick that he has gotten into that position not once but twice.
Let me put it this way: if he hits any other cars, he is done for the race. The overall DQ limit is 22.
iRacing official races, the DQ limit is 17. Remember, leagues can set how many incidents they get before a disqualification. That is up to the league's discretion. Official race is 17. League, it's however much race control says, and they said 22, and Daryl Tidrick is dangerously close to that limit.
Green, white, checkered time for Sean Brightsman, Chris White, and the rest of the company. The Northwest Cup Series back underway. Green flag waiting up with a stand. Brightsman stacks them. Tire spin as off and away goes the 46.
Ooh, some contact in the back. Everything gets settled down, but here we go. Let's see what happens with Chris White in the 83. Brightsman was able to get away. BJ Tidrick was able to get around the 83. BJ Tidrick on 12-lap older tires. Caution is out. We'll try it again.
And it will be one final green-white-checkered Autumnbacher in the grass. But the trigger was Carl Burke getting turned around in turn one. You're lucky dog just on the lead lap. Last caution triggers this one.
That's unfortunate for Carl Burke, and that's a real shame because of the run he had that has just gone away, because he was running up in the top 5 almost the entire first half of the race, almost the first 3/4 of the race actually, looking back, and to have it end this way, definitely a heartbreaker for Carl Burke.
And here's the downside of Tidrick getting a good run. Not the Toyota Camry zooming by, the Ford Mustang and the Winston machine. Chris White is now on the bottom side for this final restart of the race.
So Chris White, this may work out for him. As we saw, he wasn't able to time it right to get down, and that allowed Tidrick to get up in front of Chris White, and right before the caution came out, he was able to be in front of Chris White, so move him to second. But Chris White now on the freshest tires of our podium right now as it stands, on the inside right behind Brightsman, and I don't think Brightsman wanted to see that.
I don't think he wanted to see it either. And they're starting to discuss things here as well. So we'll have to see how things shape out here and in regards to race control, because there is the apparent point of one car on there was that tire spin we mentioned. Brett Johnson ducked his way underneath, not just to the bottom, but underneath the white line through the apron through the front straightaway to avoid the contact.
Interesting. So we'll see how it all unfolds here. We get set for green-white-checkered number 2.
Your expectations for this final GWC?
I got no expectations. I'm just expecting something wild. I don't know what, but something wild's about to happen.
What do you do if you're Brightsman to try and hold on to this front position to the checkered?
If I'm Brightsman, I'm going to try to do exactly what I did on that last restart. Get as far out ahead as I can. Hope the side-by-side battle between White and Tidrick lasts longer than, or it lasts as long as it possibly can, I should say, and hope that I'm able to get back to the white flag before it breaks loose again.
See if we get the 1 or the 2 to go signal. Carl Burke is officially out of the race. 2 to go signal stays on top of the iRacing official pace car in this scenario. Don't forget as well, Bill Ross Jr., we talked about him a little bit before, Greg, how he was floated around 10th to 12th. With all the attrition in front of him, he's now in range for a potential top 5, and Brian Barnes also back in the top 5.
And remember, Chris White, Bill Ross Jr., Brian Barnes, what do those three have in common? They were all caught up in incidents through the course of the race that required them to use their fast repair. Both of them were way back in the pack, as far back as 20th and on down for all three of them at some point in the race. All three took very heavy hits through the course of the race. All three of them were back up in the top 5.
Take a look at the gains, meanwhile, on the left side of your screen, and how many double-digit gainers in that top 7. All but Brightsman have gained more than 10 positions from their starting positions earlier tonight. Lowest amount, Chris White. Biggest amount, BJ Tidrick, still on those old tires.
Yeah, BJ Tidrick, that strategy call has worked out great for him just because of the fact that he's been able to catch cautions. And it wasn't even really a strategy call at first. It was, I missed my pit stall. And then it turned into, oh, let's see what happens. Well, what's happened is he keeps catching cautions. He's still up in second place for the second green-white-checkered. This may work out for a top 5 if they can make it around 2 more laps.
What do you feel BJ Tidrick's reaction may be if he's able to hold on to this as they get the 1 to go?
I don't think there's enough alcohol in the city of Kennewick to surpass the celebration that would occur if the 72 is able to get the top 5.
1 to go signal, as it will be an interesting one. 2 tires on the bottom line in row 1, old tires on the top line. 4 tires in row 2 alongside 4 tires of Brian Barnes. 4 tires for Ross Jr. and Ricky Boser. Where did he come from? Is in 6th position currently. Line up side by side. Check that the 7th with Roy Grande back up to 6th position, who's had a stellar race. But it's about to be a race to see if we get the yellow or the checkered. Sean Brightsman looking to try and continue his charge in history. Enters tonight with 44 career victories in Northwest Racing Series history, looking for his 45th to reel in Mark Walls. Off and away he goes, 2 laps to go from Kansas.
That's what Brightsman needed to do. He had to get the big jump there, and he did it perfectly. Through the trioval, Chris White trying to get to the inside of BJ Tidrick for second. The battle's going to be for second as they go off into the first turn.
White just barely gets clear of BJ Tidrick. Barnes still side by side with the 17.
Chris White trying to get up on the inside of Tidrick. Gets the spot. Chris White in the second. White flag coming out, and he is catching Sean Brightsman. 1 to go.
BJ Tidrick still holding on. Race is official. 1.5 miles to go from Kansas. Here comes the run. Brightsman holds off the top line, dives to the bottom side in 1 and 2. Huge run for Chris White coming down to the final stretch. Contact behind. BJ Tidrick in the 17. Slide to the apron. Chris White side by side for the race lead. Contact behind. To the checker flag they go. Chris White on 4 tires. 2 tires for Brightsman. Sean Brightsman wins it in a drag race at Kansas. 0.041 seconds is the margin of victory. And for Brightsman, his 45th career victory in Northwest Racing Series competition. For Brightsman, it's also his 3rd victory of the campaign. A season high in 2020 in the Cup Series. A hard-fought victory for the LSR-TV Toyota Camry. And as Brightsman celebrates a hard-fought victory tonight, let's take a peek at your unofficial race results in a green-white-checkered finish by 0.041 seconds. Brightsman was able to hold off Chris White on 2 tires to take home his 3rd victory of the season. Brian Barnes finished in 3rd. Those 3 will join us in post-race coverage in just a little bit. Ricky Bosher comes away with the 4th place after being deep in the field much of the night. Corey Walters also sneaks in for a top 5 finish, one of his best results since an early season victory. Brett Johnson in 6th, Dan West Jr. 7th, Bill Ross Jr. in 8th, Paulison in 9th, and Seth Frazier rounds out the top 10. Quietly, Adam Chisholm was involved in the big one. At one point, in 11th position is where he'll stand in the 70. Dan Lowther comes home in 12th, Dana Rogers 13th, Roy Granting in 14th. Daryl Tidrick in 15th, Autumn Bacher 16th. DJ Tidrick drops all the way back to 17th with a crash, while Stabnow and Harris round out the drivers on the lead lap. Everybody else 2 laps down or more. Gary Nichols in 20th, O'Hare 21st, Birkin 22nd, Weaver, West, Devin West specifically, Scott Hutchinson, Dan Stuzzi, all did not finish on the lead lap and or finished in the garage. Few drivers did not make it to the grid tonight either. Scott Mann, one of the quickest cars in practice, 27. Barry Fournier, Steve Jennings, Eric Cheney also did not make it to the grid and have a DNS for Kansas. Post-race interviews coming up in just a few moments. You're watching LSR TV, your home for sim racing, the Clan Wars post-race show. Coming up after this. Welcome back to LSR TV, your home for sim racing for the Clan Wars post-race show, the official communication partner of LSR TV. Justin Prince, Greg Rentz, Charles Wooden in the director's seat for you for tonight's action as we celebrate what was an exciting finish here from Kansas. The driver who came home in 3rd place tonight with all the craziness was Brian Barnes, and he had a wild race. He's standing by with me. First things first, Brian, crazy finish, crazy race. How are you feeling on the top 3 tonight?
I'm pretty happy with it. That was a very fun race for me. I had come from the rear 3 times, I believe, and end up in third. I'm pretty stoked with that. But every time I got to the front, I kept making a silly mistake, like not missing a wreck or bouncing it off the wall by myself. So pretty stoked with the third.
How difficult was it to keep on doing that over and over and over again? Because just at the end, before that final GWC, we know you were back in the top 5. What was kind of that motivation to keep on chugging along?
Just the fun I was having, man. It was a blast. Me and Sean were coming up through there on one run. It was just a blast racing these guys. Just head down and keep on going.
One of the main things tonight was the interesting matters of some drivers electing to take the top line, some trying the bottom line, some trying the middle line. Your thoughts on the different lines we've seen tonight from these racers?
Probably one of the best setups I've ever run at this track, because this is generally a top line track, but I noticed you could make a lot of passes in the middle and the bottom of the track too, so love the setup.
Now, the next race on the calendar will see a bit of a different track. One of the first times seeing a 2-mile circuit, 85 laps currently scheduled distance for Michigan. Your thoughts on Michigan?
That should be fun. Hope to make it. I'm kind of bummed I missed last week's Roval because I think I would have had a pretty good shot at that one. So congrats to Sean for winning that one too. I guess Jeff won that one. But that was a fun one to watch and listen to you guys. But hope to be back next week in Michigan.
Anyone you want to thank before we let you go?
Thank all these guys and you guys for doing the broadcast, man. It's a lot of fun to watch the next day at work and show all the guys down to shop what I do.
Congratulations on the top 5 finish tonight. Good run.
Thanks.
Brian Barnes coming home in third tonight. Standing by with your second place finisher, just a couple 100ths away from his first victory, Chris White.
Yeah, Chris White, man, oh man, so close there at the end, bud.
Yeah, you're telling me. It makes it that much harder to come that close to a win. We've been kind of in a drought. SimStar Motorsports kind of in a drought here, trying to get back to victory lane. We came so close. It stings, but that was a good run for us.
Well, talk to us about the run, because about halfway through you caught the wall there in the middle of a green flag run ball, running in the 5th spot, and you had to come in, use the fast repair, and work your way through the field, and you did a great job doing that. So tell us about the course of your day there.
Yeah, the car was strong. It was definitely a fast Ford Mustang here at Kansas. I was just running as we were up front there, the top 4 or 5 cars neck and neck right there. Real close racing, hard racing, and I think the 55 of Dan West right there got into the wall slightly, and it caused him to check up a little bit, so I lifted and tried to turn to the left to miss him, and I kind of just lost it there into the infield, and that was unfortunate, but again, a fast Ford Mustang here at Kansas, and that's how I was able to come from the back after that and drive back up to the front and be in contention there at the end.
And Chris, talk to us about the last pit stop there, because when you came out, you were the second car on 4 fresh tires. Everybody else in front of you was either on no tires or 2 tires. So tell us about how that all came in, getting yourself up into that position there at the end with the different strategies going on.
Well, coming in and getting tires was key. I think getting 4 tires under yellow there was a key thing right there. And knowing that the 46 was up front and some of those guys are pretty fast and some guys had old tires, I knew with the fresher tires I'd be a little bit stronger. I could run that high line, I could run the low line, and I could probably put the power down a little bit more than they could with the better grip. So I thought I was pretty well set there to make a charge to the front and take out that top spot. But I think we got another caution there and ran through those green-white-checkered phases there. And that one restart, I kind of
missed the jump, and Sean got a good jump on me, and then I got taken over by the 72, and then a caution came right out again. And but fortunately for that, the next restart I was behind the 46 and able to regain that ground, and I had some good momentum there in the last couple laps there, and I thought I had the 46, and it was just such a close race, close finish. It was a lot of fun, but again, it stings to come home second.
But a second place finish is definitely going to help you in the point standings and build some momentum going into another big track here in a week. We got Michigan on deck, so some momentum being built for that perhaps.
Oh, certainly. Anytime you can put together a solid run like this, top 5, top 3, podium finish even, a win would be better, but it definitely builds some momentum, especially moving forward. Michigan is a fun track. It's technically my home track. I'm from Michigan, relocated to the Northwest back in '06. So it's been a while, but it is officially my home track. So I'm excited to go back to Michigan and see if we can put this Ford Mustang in victory lane there.
So a lot of momentum going with a trip back home on deck. Chris White, a lot of momentum going, but we know you got some shout outs you want to give after a second place. So who you want to thank?
Oh, definitely. We got to thank Waltz Beard Co. We got to thank LSR TV. You guys do a fantastic job. Got to thank all the guys that come out here and race in this series. It's just a lot of fun to come out here. You know, everybody's out here fighting hard. Everybody wants to win. But in the end, we're out here to have fun, and that's what we're doing. Got to shout out my team, SimStar Motorsports, with AMSOIL, Interstate Synthetics, side business I run. If anybody's looking for AMSOIL, visit interstatesynthetics.com. We got a nice looking car here today with the Wix filters. AMSOIL does sell Wix filters. So if you're looking for an oil change, check out interstatesynthetics.com.
All right, that's second place. Chris White came up just a little bit short, but no doubt some momentum. Looking for another one here next week in Michigan. Second place, congratulations.
Appreciate it. And congrats to Sean there on that win there.
All right, that's second place, Chris White. And Justin, I believe you are down in victory lane for the third time this season with Sean Breitzman.
Yes, indeed. It's a new season high for victories by a single driver. Sean, first things first, how does it feel to win your third race of the season and your 45th career win in Northwest Racing Series history?
It feels wonderful, especially at a track that I'm not the most fond of. So I 45 wins in the Northwest Racing Series here. Awesome. Third win of the season. Hopefully I can grab the fourth win next week at Michigan.
Let's talk about the runs up to the finish. Taking 2 tires, multiple restarts in the closing stages of this race. What was going through your head as you started that last GWC and went into one of the closest finishes of the season?
You know, I thought 2 tires was going to be the right call. And it kind of really started back to the first Green-white-checkered there or maybe before that with Jeff and I. Jeff, myself, and Seth, we all took 2 tires, and I kind of wiggled up and squeezed Jeff into the wall and caused that big old carnage. But we just weren't sure what 2 tires were going to do. And under that first one, I was a little stressed out to run the bottom. And I think indecisive got the best of me with the 2 tires as I went into turn 1 there and just wasn't sure where I wanted to run the car, and kind of lost some ground there as Chris caught up pretty quick.
Indeed. What was going through your head, mind you, once he caught up to you and started to get that run heading towards the final corners of this race?
I felt pretty good in 3 and 4. I felt, and I had my coach Jeff up top telling me, you'll be fine in turn 3 and 4, run up top, you'll be fine, there's no issue. So I just ran it, pinned it, and figured if Chris is going to pass me, he's either going to have to slide job or he's going to have to door me. That's going to be about the only way there in turn 3 and 4 for him to get by. So, but he had a great run coming out of turn 3. I think the top group definitely paid off there to get me to the checkered line.
Now, next race goes to a different type of racetrack, to the intermediates, a 2-mile circuit. Michigan International Speedway. Your thoughts on it, might ask?
I like MIS. I think I'm going to be intrigued with the Cup car going there. I can't say I've ran any 2-mile racetracks with the Cup car and its downforce package and all that. So I think it'll be an interesting night for the Northwest Cup Series, and I look forward to hopefully leading the pack.
Anyone you want to thank before we let you go tonight?
Absolutely. Got to thank everybody at LSR TV for broadcasting and sponsoring the 46 Toyota Camry. Got to thank Central Welding Supply. I'm going to shout out Interstate Synthetics. I don't use AmSoil right now, but I've used it before, and I probably will be ordering from Chris once I start doing my oil changes in my car. So we'll shout out Interstate Synthetics, and really just everybody at the Northwest Racing Series for taking the time, practicing, and just putting on a great show. And thank you guys for broadcasting.
Congratulations on the victory tonight. Good performance with your 13 laps led this evening.
Thank you, Justin.
Sean Brightsman coming home with the victory tonight in the LSR TV Toyota Camry. I'd like to thank him along with Chris White and Brian Barnes for stopping by for post-race coverage presented by Clan Wars. But before we say goodbye, Greg, your final thoughts on how this race progressed tonight.
Justin, this was undoubtedly one of the best races we've seen in the Northwest Racing Series, not just this year, but almost, I would say, all time. This was an all-time race here in the Northwest Racing Series. An incredible battle, so many cars up in contention, so many different things happening, and to have so many different strategies going on at the very end was just the perfect ending to that race. An insane night, unbelievable. I cannot wait for the trucks to come back here on Thursday because I'm looking forward to that as well. This was one of the most fun races we've had all year.
And on top of that, it's the closest margin of victory in 2020, even beating that 2-3 wide finish we seen at one point at Atlanta Motor Speedway. But your thoughts real quickly on Michigan.
Oh, I'm looking forward to Michigan, the 2-mile oval, one of the fastest tracks in NASCAR. It is an insane facility, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the stars of the Northwest Series can bring to the table next week in the Motor City, well, the Motor State.
You were right the first time, but either way, it's time to say goodbye. For my broadcast partner, Greg Rentz, for our producer, Charles Wooden, I'm Justin Prince saying so long. Enjoy the rest of your Monday night. Congratulations to Sean Brightsman on the victory. You've been watching LSR TV, your home for sim racing.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of LSR TV and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of 52 Media LLC and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. LSR TV would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.